Greetings, family. Welcome to Pan-Africanism towards Nationhood, building a global Black business pipeline. Greetings, family. You're here on tonight with Bomani Tyehimba of Africa for Africans, my good brother, Color Genesis Radio of Black African Infrastructure Organization. Family, welcome to another one of our live calls with the kings of Pan-Africanism and Nationhood. So yes, my good brother. Yes, my good brother. How you feeling? You ready for another night? You ready to roll?
Oh yeah, I'm really ready.
Dynamic duo is back at it again, family. Ready for you. Yes, family. So tonight's topic: blood and soul to build the land of liberty. Liberia, Republic for Repatriation and Pan-Africanism. Afrikstan analysis with Bomani and Color Genesis. So, family, we're giving it to you real live, and we're talking about repatriation. We're talking about Pan-Africanism. We're talking about building land of liberty. All these things are foundation of what we're talking about: Pan-Africanism towards nationhood, or straight this nation building. So, before we get into it, family, I want to just give you a quick share of our detailed schedule for all of our beautiful Africa tours and investment. We had a wonderful time in Senegal and the Gambia as we set off this year journey of a lifetime. So now we're getting ready to head to Ghana, and that is next month. Like, family literally just got back from Senegal and the Gambia a little bit less than 10 days ago. So here we are gearing things up, and what we specialize in family is preparation and tour organizing, and making sure that we have unique accommodations, and making sure we build an incredible world-class program to give you more for your money, and to just give you what we call, quote unquote, the journey of a lifetime. And we have these incredible books. This is a real tour book. These are the things that we do. This is from our last journey, and this is real book we built. This is 17 years, the journey of a lifetime. And what you see is a picture of the last journey to Senegal and Gambia in 2021 of April. And now, 2 years later, we just completed another journey, and we have it documented. And this printed book is also a digital book. So we're good on the technology. And then you see the T-shirts, got nice amenity packages, and gifts for you, for thanking you for joining the journey of a lifetime. So the tour program literally introduces you to an incredible way to be introduced to the African continent, be connected with credible people, and also meet and connect other people from from where you are in America that may be open to the same things you're in, and together we can just grow and build our interests. So that's what we set up. So let me just give you a quick share of our website, and share with you where you can find all information. So family, once you're on our website, it's the details are right there. Once you go past the music player and the slideshow, you get right into the information where you see, we say, welcome to Africa for the Africans, tours and investment. And this is our quote unquote schedule. And it's also right there on the main menu, where once you click on a link, you get the full tour details. So that's all we're asking people to do that's interested in any of the tours we have. The next one after Ghana is our Rwanda, July 20th to the 30th, in Tanzania, November 16th to the 27th. All right. Hopefully you can see that real good. All right. I did go a bit bigger view. And once we finish there in Tanzania, we're going to head to South Africa to close out the year. That's December 24th to January 4th. So our featured journey is Liberia Reconnection and Investment Tour. That's March 29th to April 9th, 2024. So yes, family, 1 year from now. So just trying to get you to process the information. That way in the next few months, we start getting you locked in, so we can build an incredible group. And that's how we do it. Just make sure that you look through information, read through all of it. It's not a whole lot. It's tour overview, it's itinerary, general terms, preparation details, and visa information for all the countries that you need a visa for, which Liberia is one of them. So that is the set off for 2024. And then we're going to do a summer journey back to Ghana, July 11th to the 23rd. Our fall journey, Egypt, November 21st to December 2nd. And then for December 2024, looking to figure out which journey we're going to travel on. But to set off 2025, we're back to Senegal and the Gambia. And some of these journeys are subject to change based on just, we're just putting schedules out and see the interest, and then we just work at them little by little. So we're already set for Ghana already. We have a group of 20. Last time we was in Senegal and the Gambia, it's a group of 16 of us. Last time in Ghana, a group of 18 of us. Tanzania, a group of 15 of us. So building back up the group since this COVID era has kind of died out a little bit more. And also, for those who are interested in our Pan-African community, this is the link here. And most of these things are just links provided because it's a lot of information to read through. So we expect you to just process the details, review it, and then reach out, call me. And if you need an email version of anything, I can send it to you, and then we can dialogue, go through the information. We have monthly conference calls, and all of these things are prepared, are in order to just keep on giving you updates and keep on giving you clarity and keep on going through some aspects of the information. And so, family, that's how you access all of the information from the main menu or right there in the middle of the page. And then all of the links are all down here, along with all of the previous group photos. So that's 2006 to 2023. That's 17 straight years of journeys of a lifetime. And you'll see all of these beautiful photos. So this is our progress. This is our energy. And this is the things that we're doing to get you connected to Africa. And we're going to keep on evolving, keep on growing, keep on building. So appreciate everyone's support who is down with us. And all the haters, you can just keep on hoping and praying for our downfall. It's not going to happen. The ancestors got us, and we're going to keep on building strong. And that's how we're going to do it, family. From here on until the end of time, we're doing generational nation building. And that's our banner, Africa for the Africans, Tours and Investment. And that's us right there. That's all the highlights, us enjoying all aspects of life on the African continent, showing you that you should spend your money in Africa on a journey versus going to Europe or all these other places that's completely irrelevant to you, and get great accommodations and nothing but love and energy to this, from our brothers and sisters that's there to accommodate us. So yes, my good brother, Genesis, that's what we telling people.
Yep.
Take the journey of a lifetime to the motherland, spend some black dollars and put it in some black hands, and show some love to our brothers and sisters on the African continent so we can build some businesses, put some more people on, support some more enterprise, and keeping it strong. So family, tonight's topic, we're talking about blood and soil and Genesis, the term blood and soil, give them a good breakdown. Tell them why we're talking about blood and soil and why we're talking about the land of liberty and Liberia, the first republic.
Yeah, the reason why we're talking about blood and soil tonight is because that's what it's going to take for us to be ultimately free. Blood and soil. It's not going to take anything less, anything more. It's going to take blood. It's going to take bloodshed. Anytime anybody's free in history, right, it takes bloodshed. And this is one of the things that people don't like talking about when we talk about these topics. We think everything's going to be pleasant, rosy, and stuff like that. But as we see now, what happened to our brothers in the Cape Coast of Ghana? What happened to these brothers? And they sat there helplessly, and I'm sick and tired of it. 500 years of us sitting back being helpless, whether we're helpless in America, and now people expect us to be helpless in Africa too, our mother, our birthright. I don't care what, like I said, no weapons formed against you shall prosper. No government, no entity, no tribe, no anything will prosper against us, while a God-given right to build the Afrikstan, which means a homeland and territory for the descendants of stolen Africans from the West. So if, like I said, we could do this a nice way, or we could do this the not so nice way. And that's what we're talking about tonight, because if somebody have ideas, I'm getting the impression that people have joined this Pan-African movement to scam, use the natural desire of Black people to want to return to Africa to make a quick buck, scam, misrepresent, abuse, slander, defame what we're trying to do. And we're saying that we're going to put an end to this, And so, like I said, Bomani's ready, I'm ready, and we're going to take this so however people want it to do, or you just get out of our way and leave us the hell alone, because this is what we're talking about tonight. And we're going to talk about how our ancestors, when they went to Liberia, right, and we're going to vindicate our ancestors. When our ancestors went to Liberia, they had a taste of this thing called liberty and liberation, freedom. That's where it comes from. People say black liberation, but yet you live your life in bondage, right? You're in bondage to your job. You're in bondage to poverty. You're in bondage to the police. You're in bondage to gangs in your community. You don't know what liberation is. Like Malcolm X said, if you don't know what liberation is, you don't know what real revolution is, keep that out of your mouth. Because if you don't understand that the end game is to be ultimately have power and to be free, no matter whether it's here in America, whether it's the Caribbean or it's Africa, we should have the right to self-determination and determine our destiny and live with dignity and pride and everything. If that's off the table, then we have no deal. So this is why I say we have to revisit the history of Liberia. Okay, our ancestors said no. We don't. We just many of them fought against the King of England, right, for America. So when they went to Africa, they said they don't want to live under any ruler, any king, any tyrant, or anything like that. They wanted to be free, the God-given right to be free. Here's a country of America that was founded on liberty and freedom. But America went around the world making sure that nobody else enjoys freedom. A country that says it's free and everything like that. What was America's? What was that when Cubans were tired of getting exploited? America did everything they can to destroy the Cuban liberation movement, right? America did everything they can to destroy Chile, to Bolivia, all these countries in Central and South America. America propped up dictators, overthrew regimes, installed thugs as dictators and everything like that, because America really only wants freedom for itself. It does not want freedom for anybody else. So this idea that, American democracy and all this kind of stuff is a lie. I knew it was a lie when they had a fake president called Barack Obama getting up there talking about we want democracy. That was a lie. Barack Obama was just another politician telling us democracy. And also, America is not a democracy. It's a constitutional republic. It has nothing to do with democracy. So they use these nice sounding words, democracy and everything. But has America ever basically said to the Saudi Arabia, the monarchs of Saudi Arabia, to have a democracy? No, because Saudi Arabia is giving America oil. So we look the other way on that as far as Saudi Arabia, Jordan, or anybody else that America is in bed with. We look the other way. They look the other way. So therefore, like I said, we can't base what we know what democracy is and freedom is. We have to define it for ourselves. And define it for ourselves means a nation of our own, government of our own, territory of our own, something where we have autonomous and jurisdiction and some sort of space for ourselves to protect ourselves, to edify ourselves, and to identify ourselves with. As our identity now are the people, the children of the stolen Africans from the diaspora. That's who we are. That's our tribe. Whether you come from the United States, Canada, whether you come from Jamaica, whether you come from the Caribbean, everything, we're all one part of this one group called the stolen Africans, from the West. So therefore, like I said, our ancestors in Liberia, they went to Liberia. They came from the United States. They came from the Caribbean. They came from different parts of Africa. They were liberated slaves from the slave ships, and they settled there in Liberia. And they wanted one thing: they wanted freedom, and they were ready to spill blood over the soil to make it happen. And that's what happens in every war in history. Somebody says, Rome says that it wants to take somebody's territory and expand. The people rise up and say, no, we don't have it. Rome prevailed, they crushed them. Okay, but Rome had to pay a price for its empire, its republic, its empire, right? The people who fought and resisted Rome, eventually the Goths and all these people wanted freedom. So what they do, they fought against Rome. They went to war. They're bloody war. They spilled blood over the soil. When blood soaks the soil, that's a determining factor of a thing, because both sides will consider itself right. In any conflict, there's always right on both sides. But what settles everything is usually war. And so if you are planning on building something on the African continent, right, you have to be prepared to hold it by any means necessary. That means basically being armed, being organized. I look at this situation in Ghana, right? Why isn't the Black community, African American diaspora community, why aren't we rallied around the U.S. Embassy and whatnot, picking the U.S. Embassy for what our brothers happen? We're just sitting there, oh, that's just them. I just hope it don't happen to me. And you acting like you don't have a card to play. You're bringing money into this country. You're putting Ghana on the map. If there was a mass exodus of people out of Ghana and everything like that, Ghana's image would be tarnished. Ghana's riding high on the fact that there's Black people in America, the year of return, and people going there to live and do business and everything like that. So that puts Ghana in a high profile. That's your hand to play. It seems like Black people in America don't even know how to negotiate and understand when they're in a position of power, when you got the cards in your head. Because let me give you an example. Our Ghanaian brothers and sisters, they're playing their hand. They're seeing what they can get out of everything interaction. You got President Nana in Baltimore, talking to Baltimore. Why? Because he wants some investment. He wants some of that pension fund money from unions and city employees and everything in Ghana. So he's looking out for Ghana. Who's looking out for us? Who's looking out for our interests? There's two things that you have in this movement, right? You have people who in the Pan-African world. You have people who are interested in Africa and people who are trying to secure an interest in Africa. There's two different things. The interest is something tangible, something that you hold on to, something that you can't be taken away. That's an interest. Something that you want to protect. That's an interest in something. Now, being interested in something is what people do on YouTube. Just talk about it all day. They make no moves. They don't build anything. They don't create anything, and they can't secure anything. That's being interested in something. That's being an enthusiast, and being enthusiastic about something. That's being interested in something. Having an interest is what my brother Bomani is building in Ghana. That's an interest. He has land over there. That he has people that have land, that bought land will build out. That's an interest. So we now have a stake in the country. We have an interest, and we're going to protect that interest by any means necessary. How are we going to do it? There's no compromise. There's no thing with that. This is a side of the Pan-African movement that people don't want to talk about. We tried the rosy colored, looking through glasses and everything, and look what happened to our brothers in the Cape Coast. Just bulldoze their land, no due process, no anything. Stole their computers, stole their pipes, stole anything. That's why some of our good friends got blocked on Saturday Night Show, because they were making remarks like, well, I heard they was like this. Well, you heard wrong. So even though you were cool with us and all that thing, you're blocked, until Bomani decides to unblock you again, So we're not playing these games anymore, because people are putting their lives on the line. And we take this very, very seriously. If you got African Americans that are in Ghana, whatever like that have land and property and business and everything, that's our interest in Ghana. Okay? That's just not somebody sitting on running their mouth on YouTube and everything like that. That's an interest. And the Pan-African movement, they're part of the Pan-African movement, the Repatriation movement. That's an interest. People are putting their lives, they're putting their hard work, they're putting their dedication in something and everything. And so if we can't help them monetarily and everything, at least we could use these platforms to give them our moral and support. So that's what I want to open with, Brother Bomani. Mine must have went to get something to drink.
Yes, brother. Yes, that's what you open with. Keeping it strong. That is what's up. So yes, family, as usual, that's what we're talking about, family. Pan-Africanism and nationhood. Real people out here doing real things to make real moves. Not sitting around fantasizing, hoping and praying, and looking for other people just to come and save us. We are, we're all we got. All we got is us. So that's what we're doing. We're just building collectively and figuring it out every day as time go along, and just keeping the daily work going on. So it's one of those things where it's easier to come on YouTube and fake it than it is to just be out here and put the work in. So just letting you know the difference. You may not like some of the things we talk about and say, but we got to give it to you real. I know We're not part of that world. Fake it until you make it.
Yeah, and when
They
somebody else is
fake
doing something,
real.
somebody else
That's
is doing something. Like, let me give you an example. I had supported JT the bigger figure. Now I figure I realize he's a fraud. You know.
for real. Break it down. Break it down.
Yeah,
Break
what
it
I'm hearing
down.
now is, and this is another thing. From what I hear, he showed up for the Savior's Day event in the Nation of Islam, right? All suited up and everything like that. But he walked, so like 10 million people invested a total of $10 million, and they haven't seen any land and everything. I think a lot of people, I'm not gonna knock our people and everything like that. I'm gonna be careful about what I say. You know, I understand the enthusiasm for going to wanting to live in Africa. Okay, but I just think our people don't have the real guidance. They're led by emotion. You know, they say, oh, I just want to live in Africa. It looks so beautiful and everything. Everything that looks beautiful. You know, let me give you an example. Let's say you go to Caicos, San Lucas, and all these exotic places, right? You go there on vacation. You're going to say this place is beautiful, you know, beautiful beaches, everything. But to the people that live there and that are struggling every day, I learned this years ago when I watched a documentary, right, about Hawaii, right? And they said the Navy sailors said they hated Hawaii. You know, that was the worst place to be. And I was saying to myself, wait a minute, Hawaii is a tropical paradise and everything. And they said the people, they said it was just a real, back in the World War II times. They said, yeah, the playground, that was the rich people. The rich people out there, or they doing their thing. He said, but when you got to get up and you got to walk or ride a motorcycle for miles to a job, and so like deal with the heat and stuff like this, you know, and the real hard work, he said, man, it's different. So then it dawned on me that when I went to Disney one time, right? I went to Disney World, right? And I went to SeaWorld, right? I wonder why the people at SeaWorld look like they were so miserable. Have you been to SeaWorld? The people that
No.
worked there look miserable, angry, you know? They hated their place. I was like, oh, SeaWorld. And under their breath, they're saying, shut the fuck up, you know? Because why? Because my reality was I'm on vacation. I got money and everything. And these people got to work here and do the tours and everything like that. They're just looking at their watch like when they're going to get off their shift. So take that, take that attitude when you talk about Africa. It looks beautiful, right? But if you don't have a game plan where you're going to sustain yourself, right, and you go over there and you become part of the local population, right, that means, you know, that if you're not rich, whatever like that, you got to live where the locals live. You got to strive like the locals strive. You got to do all stuff like that. That's a different story. And people don't tell you that story. That's why I said, and then people go there not as a group, right, and say, this is what we're going to do. We're going to organize. We're going to build this community over here. We're going to have this here as a resource center. If you fall on bad times, we can help you out and stuff like that. It's everybody on their own and everything. And look at the people who's leading you. You know, you're being led by a rapper. You know, that's still involved with criminal activity and stuff like that in America, from what I'm hearing. And everything, and he's leading you to Africa, and you're sending him your money for land, and you don't even know how the land laws work in the country and everything. And now you're complaining that, oh, that's not what I was promised and everything like that. They think it's like America. You didn't take a time to understand how the land plots are given out, how they're measured by the governments, and also the fact that does the government really actually honor those properties that's owned by people who are not physically in the country, whatever, or don't have citizenship or don't have residency and stuff like this. You don't think about all that because the person that's just doing it for you is basically just selling you a dream. Now, would say, Kyle, you're just being a little harsh and everything. Well, the bottom line is there's 2,000 people that invest in JT the bigger figure, and they're all like, where's our money? Where's our land? Where's our land? So I'll just keep quiet, you know, and you just keep doing what you're doing. Not educating yourself, not really getting with people that really know what they're doing. You know, I don't have a million subscribers, right? Because I have a million subscribers, people think I'm nobody. I don't know what I'm talking about. You know, we're not doing YouTube videos every day and whatnot and being popular and everything. A lot of people, to be honest with you, don't like me. You know, they don't like Bomani. You know, but all we do is tell you the truth. And we basically tell you like it is. Bomani gets a consultation. You know, we'll tell you if you're ready to go to the continent, and if this is really what you want to do, we'll help you do that. And we'll be open and transparent and honest with you. But people don't want that, you know. They want you to tell them a lie. They want you to tell them, oh yeah, man, Hotep, man, Black Power and everything. And the reality is, when you move to a place, you move to a country, you move to another state, right? If you don't got things set up, you don't have a job, you don't have ways of supporting yourself and everything, you're gonna get angry, and then you're gonna say Africa sucks. Well, no, I went to Africa. No, you went to Africa unprepared. You're not organized, right? You're going with groups of people that are not organized, that don't have a support system. And so therefore, this is what we're trying to build here. I'll never tell anybody just to quit your job, go to Africa and everything like that. That's irresponsible. I'm not going to tell you that. I would love to be, oh, Carl, you're against people going. No, I want people to go to Africa, but I want people to go the right way. Remember something. And also, you got to remember something. When you go to the continent, right, and you're coming from the West, just like people don't realize this, right, that the hardest people in Africa, people who have the hardest time in Africa are the people that was born there. They went to the West for like 20 years and they come back to Africa and they got nothing to show for it. You are at the bottom. They look at you as like a complete failure. You got a chance, because the way the African thinks is, anybody who left Africa should come back to Africa rich, because there's money's on the ground here, and the streets are paved with gold and everything. And they judge you if you don't come back there with a large sum of money. Even when you're living in America, a lot of people will try to hit you up for money. Oh, you're over there making money and everything like that. Why aren't you making so much? They don't understand bills, taxes, car payment, and stuff like this that we go through in America. So this is what we're talking about tonight. It's just going to be a hard road. It's not going to be easy. And the most important thing I want to leave people with tonight is we must work together. If you got some plan that you're not basically, so why is there so little organized trend? Because I'll tell you why. I'm going to deal with that tonight. Because a lot of people who go to the African continent, right, they're not doing well, right? They're not doing well. You know it. They're on YouTube and they're looking at that YouTube, how many people are doing this. So they're barely making it. They're making off the YouTube chats and their super chats and their revenue streams and everything like that. And they're barely making everything. And so when they go there, they don't want to be around people because they're ashamed that their life didn't turn out the way they wanted to, right? So that's why I said I had people that I sent to Ghana a couple of years ago, right? And I said, you guys should get together and whatnot. And boy, was I wrong, right? I did manage to put some people together in Kenya when that guy passed away a couple of years ago. He was a real good brother. The dude that did karate, that was on a dining show. I forgot his name, right? But I had some people that met with him and everything like that. And they were basically met together and everything. But it's hard. It's really hard to put people that I know, even in the BAIO, together in Africa. Because people, people don't want to see people's living situation. Now, there's stuff they're probably involved in, they're not particularly proud of and everything. Because no one, and then all of a sudden people use the excuse, oh, I don't want to be around no African Americans or everything like that. The reason why you don't want to be around African Americans is because you don't want to see that you're not making it, or you're too proud to say, I need help. You're too proud to say, I don't know, or you're too proud to say, I've been here 7 years and I got nothing off the ground. You're too proud. That's why I said this pride, goes before a fall. If you got pride in you, right? If you got so much pride that you can't humble yourself, right? And the humbling begins before you go to the continent, right? The humbling begins by joining an organization like the BAIO, joining Africa for Africans and everything, joining and becoming a member and say, look, we don't all have it. We don't have a lot of money. None of us are rich. But if we pull our nickels and dimes together, right, and we support each other, we can make it. But a lot of people don't want to do that. They want to go to Africa and pretend like they're rich. I want a big house. What's wrong with you? A lot of these people live modestly in America, but yet when they go to Africa, they want beachfront property. They want a mansion and all stuff like this. And Africa really doesn't have the means to provide you with that. Why don't you sacrifice one more generation, right? So maybe our kids, the next generation, can come to Africa and start building those things, those big businesses and everything. Why don't we become pioneers? Pioneering is ultimately about the sacrifice. And that's what our ancestors did in Liberia. They pioneered, they sacrificed, They signed treaties, they fought wars, They protected themselves. They did all those things and everything with their nickels and dimes and everything. You know, they lived modestly. They lived within their means. You know, everything like that. They were very, very down to earth people. You know, that's why I don't like people. They went over there. They were the elite. There were no damn elite. They were just average black people, just like you find in the Carolinas. Just people just want a place on this earth where they weren't being harassed, whether it's by Africans or whether it's by European slave traders or by Americans, whoever. They wanted to live in peace and left alone. And after 500 years, I don't think that's too much to ask for. Now, the people who go over to Africa, basically, who make the mistake, is they don't realize, right, the problems that our ancestors faced for the last 100 years. The same problems still exist. Tribalism, you know, self-hate, and all the stuff like that led to the downfall of our race, you know, still exist. You know, don't be fooled that you see somebody with a modern government building. You know, how well is that government? You know, how well is the government? How well is things organized, right? Do you have anything protecting you? You know, do you have any laws on the books protecting you? No, you don't. So therefore, the best thing you could do is pull together, right, as an entity, right, and have people that represent you as a group. And that's how I think the Hebrew Israelite brothers, whatnot, they're probably looking at now, it's like, why do we don't have any support system? If there was any back to money and whatnot, the Ghanaian Black African American diaspora community should have came together and said, look, let's help you out with this. You know? Yeah, exactly right. It was tough in the beginning. You know, it was very tough, you know, but they persevered. You know, the people that go to Africa right now don't want to persevere. You know, they don't want to go to what our ancestors did when they went to Liberia. And Liberia is an excellent model. You have to build your own homes. You have to sustain yourself. You have to work together as a community, as a unit. Family units, extended family. One thing our ancestors did in Liberia is what they built big families. Women pumped out 10 kids, you know. More kids mean more kids that could tend the fields and everything, do chores and everything. We were completely self-sufficient on our own. There was no government program. There was anything. People built homes. They built nice homes. They built churches. They built town halls. They built all these things, roads and everything like that, right? They built their own mills, their own farms, everything, you know, from just nothing. There was no Wall Street banks giving them loans. There was no any of that stuff like that America had. There was no capitalist banks and everything like that. Liberia didn't have its first bank until the 70s. So everything you see built in Liberia was built without the World Bank. Before, Liberia was the only black African country that was built without the help of the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. You know, this is why there was one country in Africa we really have a chance with. You know, there's no white settlers. You know, there's no white banking interests that own swaths of land and everything. There's no white farming interests. There's no white any of that in Liberia. And we did that because we understood that we have to make a place on the continent. They knew the continent was being taken over by Europeans. So they had to create one place on the African continent where the black man from the West has a chance. You know, that's in the Constitution. You know, that's in the Constitution. A place where the Constitution doesn't even mention being a Liberian. It just means a person of Negro descent is a sanctuary of people of descent. And the Liberia is a republic. It's not really a nation. It's a republic. And in that republic, we have different peoples and tribes and everything, but they're all black. So therefore, you know, the republic says if you're a black man, yeah, you could be part of this country, this experiment called Liberia. So, like I said, we're talking about that tonight. You know, and like I said, people don't want to come join. I was born and raised in the Bay Area, currently there now. JT, he's trying to practice, been preaching for years in Africa. But look, I don't know the real thing. Maybe JT's not really a big, a real businessman. He didn't know what he was getting into. I'm sure when I listened to the video, I supported him. I like what he said and everything. I supported him. I don't know if he's scamming, but a lot of times, you know, money goes really quick, and people that don't know what you're talking about, money goes real quick in Africa. Maybe he should have said and tell somebody, oh, you can get land for $5,000. He said to be on the safe side, to create insurance policy, the same piece of land, they should have said $10,000. And they created a trust and an escrow savings and a trust and insurance bond that makes sure that people's money is insured in case something happens. But people don't think on that level. But when you have one man running the show and everything like that, that's what it is. And people just going by, yeah, he's a bigger figure and everything. What happens? That's the people. I'm not saying he did this on purpose or try to rob people, but he probably just he mismanaged the money and didn't know what he was doing. You know, and he just came into, oh, I love Africa. When the same people, right, instead of going to come to the College Genesis and Bomani Tyehimba, they go to JT, the bigger figure. Why? Because he's a rapper and he's entertained. So I feel bad for the people, but I can't feel but so bad because people, like I said, the Bible says the fool and his money will soon part. And his heart might be in the right place, but maybe his mind and his business acumen may not be there. So just in this movement right here, I don't have time to give anybody a pass, because when you mess up this movement, you're making it hard for people like myself who are doing the right thing, who haven't even started really yet. Right away, our enemies are going around the world saying, look at these scams, black people, all the people, the FBA people, the ADOS people. I told you and everything. You notice how they never mention us? Because they know we're doing things the right way. Instead of saying, you know something, we know Bomani is doing all these people, taking people to the African continent, people enjoy themselves, and they're purchasing land and everything. They say, it's not everybody. They make it seem like everybody is out here trying to scam people out of a few $1,000. I got better things to do than scam somebody out of about a little $5,000. You know, so I can't give him a pass on that. You know, when you come to the Pan-African world, what you got to do is you got to check in. You know, if you're going to come to go get into this movement right here, and you don't know really what you're doing and everything, right? The people should say, did you get a consultation? Did you pay the money to get a consultation with Bomani? Did you basically talk to College Genesis? No. So who exactly is sponsoring JT, the bigger figure? Who gave him the stamp of approval and the thumbs up and say, yeah, what you're going is right? And everything in life, right? You have to have two types of people. You're always going to have yes men around you, right? But what a lot of people don't have is no men. Like me, I have a lot of no men. I have a lot of people that tell me no. That, Colin, that's not right. I got friends of mine that call me on the phone, BAIO members and whatnot. Well, I didn't like what you said, Colin. This, that, and the other. No, that's not right. And I appreciate that. I don't want nobody sitting around pumping my ego up, telling me, oh, yes, Colin, yes, man. Yes, sir, Colin. Yes, sir, Mr. College. No, I don't need people like that. You know, my guy Ross, my guy brother Sam, my two partners in Liberia, they're my yes and no men. They'll tell me in a minute. My boy, brother Sam, he's my no man. I know Sam for years. That's my brother. His family goes back to the founding of Liberia. He owns so many houses in Liberia and everything like that. I might buy one from him. He owns so much land and property in Liberia, it's like unreal. But that guy is my no man. You know, when I get too enthusiastic or too optimistic, he'll just tell me no. And I appreciate that. We can have honest and argue and debate, yell, fuss at each other. But a lot of these people that's leading this movement and leading people that have no one around them tell them, no, that's not right. Even publicly. So no, I think you're off the. I don't think we should do it like that. No, I think it's wrong. Nobody will do that. Because people will start saying, oh, you just a hater. You just hate that stupid Mickey Mouse nonsense mentality that if you criticize anybody black and everything, you must be a hater. You must be jealous. All this kind of foolishness. And then we look around, we got people out here getting millions of dollars from the community and not producing what they say they're going to produce. Because nobody wants to stick up and say, that doesn't sound right. That doesn't add up. And we don't say, you know something, let's listen to what this other person has to say. We just always write them off as, oh, he just hating. And I'm not talking about teenagers and people haven't lived. I'm talking about people in their 30s and 40s think like this. Got grown people who that don't want to act like adults. Don't want to sit down, and when you talk about this movement right here, it's hard enough to do anything in America, but you're going to go across to another continent and everything. All your T's, all your ducks got to be lined up in a row. You have to get behind people that know what they're talking about, know what they're doing. It's going to give you the truth, give you everything up front. So that's why I said we need more no men. You know, we don't need any more yes men in this movement. We need no men. We need people to say, I don't know about that. Nah, I'm a little skeptic, you know. I don't think that's going to work right. You got to do your homework right. We got to prove that more. We have to have that in this movement. That's what having a government is all about. That's why I think at this point in our history, right, if we're going to build anything right, we have to start talking about government, where we have laws. We have things where we could reward and punish people for doing the right and wrong thing. We have to have that. We can't keep going on the way we're doing things. If we're really interested or have an interest in the African continent, we have to start thinking on a high level, representation in every African government. We should have representation in every government that we do business with or we settle in. We should have representation, non-voting representation in the African Union, in the Kenyan Parliament, in the Ugandan Parliament, you know, in the Nigerian Parliament, in the Liberian Congress, in the Ghanaian Parliament. We should, in South Africa, our voice should be there, and those representations, right, like that, should have the full force of the Black world backing it, but it doesn't. We make the foolish mistake that we're just going to fit in, I'm just going to be a Ghanaian. You sound like a friggin' fool. Because when those people come to America, they got their associations and everything like that protect their interests. They rally behind each other. They have a sense of community and everything. I don't see in Black America anymore. We don't want a community here, and then we go to Africa, we still don't want a community. And that's why the question was asked, how come Africa don't work with each other? Because we don't work with each other in America. Where we have this rugged individualism. Every time I look at people, and everybody else talk about, communalism, communion, and people working together. But yet when they go to Africa, everybody's like, you would think they're Swiss Family Robinson. Everybody's out there doing their own thing. And it's like they're on the prairies with their own homestead. But yet they talk all this unity, Pan-Africanism, communal living, and all sorts of stuff like this. But when it comes down to actually practicing it, right, on any sort of way, they shy away from it. They don't want to put any money in it. They don't want to fund it. That's why we have nothing. You know? Anyone planning on Reload Africa and doing a project that involves money should be smart enough to hire a lawyer. It's not just any lawyer. They should be vetted lawyers. We should have a team of lawyers that we know that we've been working with for years that we give a green light and say, okay. That's why it's important. If you're going to go to a country like Ghana, you go to Liberia, right? You know, I have the people that can vet lawyers. You know, not just any lawyer. It should be a lawyer that we know where they live, on a basis with and everything. We have people on the ground that can walk by their office anytime, and people that's with us. They have long-term interest, not somebody that's want to make a quick buck and everything. Getting a lawyer just not getting a lawyer is not enough. It has to be the right lawyer. So are you connected to the movement? How would you direct individuals to repatriate the continent? How would you see a story become a success properly? One is join the Black African Infrastructure Social Organization, social network. Two is save your money and come on a trip with Brother Bomani and start socializing and building a brotherhood. We need to know who you people are. You know, come on this show, right? Call Bomani, call me and whatnot. Let me see who you are. Don't stand behind hide behind a moniker and what you call and be what do they call I don't know what's the word I'm looking for, you know, and like that. Start being real. Let's start getting to know each other. Caller, are you mentioning Africa will basically be a build up a third world country? How continent have not been built? I have no. Well, that's the whole thing, right? In Africa, when you say third world, that's not really all true. In the city, when we say third world, we mean with people that still live in rural areas and still live by subsistence farming, hunting and gathering and everything like this, right? If you go to certain parts of Lagos, Nigeria, that's the first world. Okay? When you go to parts of Liberia, that's the first world. Monrovia, that's the first world. It has everything you need, a modern state. You go to Accra, first world. The problem is that Africans have not moved the majority of people into these urban settings because we try to follow the European pattern of the first world with suburbs and everything like that. But the Asians, they built, like China, high-rise towers, right, to give everybody the first world way of life. And with black people, we don't have to train people. People don't have to go from far. You got Chinese people, move people who are just farming and still primitive, right, to living in apartment buildings and told them this is what you got to do and everything like that. This is what the electricity is. This is where you dump your trash. This is where the grocery store is. This is where you go to school. They had to completely transform millions of people to this modern way of life. You know, and they do it with less space vertically. They apartment buildings. But black people in Africa, everybody wants to build in Africa a big home. And that wasn't even sustainable in America when they started building these sprawling suburban towns. So you got more traffic and more congestion. Instead of building trains and monorails and stuff like that, like Japan does and everything like that. Most Japanese have a lower standard of living than most people in the world. They live in tiny, cramped apartments, but they love their life. They have the modernization. They live in a modern world, but they just don't have. Not everybody has a house with a pool in the backyard. So Africans don't want to go through that part of, okay, let's take 20, 30 years of us giving everybody a standard of living. And everybody says by building apartment buildings. So they can live in apartments and everything. They know the modern way of life, right? And then their children might want to buy a house for the first time. That's how it was in America. A lot of people live in tenement apartments for generations. And then they were in the 50s and 60s, they started buying homes. So when you say jump into the first world and everything, it's because a lot of times there's no collective way of moving people to the first world. A lot of people don't want to go up, live off the traditional lands. You know, they want to stay where they're at in the rural areas and everything, keep doing what they're doing. That's what Roosevelt saw when he went to Congo. He said, you guys could build this. You could build factories, build industrial zones and everything, but they don't want that. You can't force people to move into the first world. South Africa is going through the same thing. You got if people move to densely populated areas. Rwanda is an excellent example of what to do. Why? Because most of the people, Rwanda is the most densely populated country in Africa. It has less land mass, but it's densely populated. It means people. The higher dense population, the higher the standard of living people are. That's what Rwanda is doing so well right now. They built apartment buildings. You know, they moved people from rural areas to densely populated urban places, where you got schools, bus lines, everything in a close proximity to each other. You know, they look at the Singapore model. Instead of everybody getting money and just tearing up the countryside, building roads, and you got to build power lines to reach everything, and sewer lines and power lines. You put everybody in one place and whatnot, and you give everybody a thing. Angola built a city called Rwanda on that premise. Now they just have to move those people like China eventually to Rwanda. You know? And I want to play that video, but I want to show people what I'm talking about.
All right, send it.
Let me see. Just go on. Can you talk about the thing while I'm getting this? You can talk about something while I'm getting this. While I'm looking for this.
All right, just send it away. It's all good.
Okay. All right. Okay. 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 All right.
All right, I will look for that video and.
Okay. Just sent it.
So family, here we go. It's just a quick view for now. So I'll look for that video and load it up. So family, this is our Liberia Reconnection flyer. So these are our dates: March 29th to April 9th, 2024. And you know, once you go to our website, just click on the link and just enjoy the information. So this is what we're pushing, and we're working towards it strong every day. So Kala, hold on and get the video up. All right, do I have the right video? Let's look quick and short.
Yeah, that's a short one. I can get a long. I got one because that was short. I know how long you want to play it. That's a short one. I can send more.
All right.
Can you find the grammar mistakes in these 5 sentences? Let's go. She's been in New York City during 3 months. She's been in New York City for 3 months. I will ask to my mother tonight. I will ask my mother tonight.
All right, appreciate the proper English.
The video should be up after that. That was a commercial.
I'm not getting you.
Hold up.
Yeah, that was just 20 seconds.
Hold up. I think you know what? I took the commercial. That was a commercial. I should. Okay, let me.
All right, brother. Come on, man. Come on, man. Get it together. Get it together. Get it together. Let's
All right. Here we go. Here we go.
Flagship $3.5 billion Kilamba New City project by China's CITIC Construction has converted a backward rural area into a modern satellite town in the Angolan capital, Luanda. China has been actively involved in Angola's post-war reconstruction process, covering projects like urbanization and social housing. The Kilamba New City project has changed the lives of many Angolans. This housing project is well equipped with a complete range of public facilities. We have built schools, sewage facilities, as well as water and power supply systems. I've learned that people in Luanda feel proud of having an apartment in Kilamba New City. That's also what we are proud of. The Santos couple moved into their spacious Kilamba apartment 5 years ago, and for the first time, they have a place of their own. The conditions where I lived before were not good. It's a rented house, far away from the city. As my income improved, I relocated to this new city built by CITIC Construction. My life has improved now.
Estoy viviendo con dignidad.
The Santos are among thousands of households whose prospects have improved because of this grand project. And now, the building complex is one of the world's largest residential sectors. The project has indeed boosted local employment and improved the overall living standards.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm talking about. See how they built people apartments, you know, instead of people thinking, oh, I'm going to save for 50 years and build a big house and whatnot. You know, the money that people, if more, the problem with this is Angola was like the first country in Africa to embrace that. You know, because most Africans, you know, they think living in housing like that is like, oh, I'm gonna live in the projects, like that's America. The projects and whatnot, you know. But see how nice those houses look?
Very
you know,
modern.
They got families in there, you know.
Great public facility.
All the stuff like that you need in the modern world. That's when we say lift people to the modern world.
Infrastructure.
You got to build infrastructure, you know, and you got to teach people this is where you live. Now, in the rural areas, people go by. When you live in an urban area, right, you're going to get along. You're going to be mixing with people that you of different tribes, of different backgrounds. You know what I'm saying? And you have to know how to socialize, and those things have to be taught. Like Singapore, they had to teach Malays, Chinese, and Indians, everything, how to live. And your next door neighbor on your same floor. So all the concrete jungle is modernity. See, like,
favorite troll. This is your favorite troll.
Yeah, so concrete. No, yeah, that is. Give me another freaking example. You know, and then what gets me
rural development.
That was rural development. You know,
like Jihadzi, a futuristic rural city.
Yeah, so the bottom line is you have to build planned cities and everything. You know, people want modernity, right? But they like you look at Banana Island and Lagos, right? Buildings collapsing, and right across the way you see slums. You know, you got people. I'm not trying to knock Nigeria tonight, right? But you got people that got mansions, extravagant mansions, right? But it's plain sight of shanty towns. Why don't you give everybody a chance? Or everybody live in apartments like that? You know, to give everybody a standard of living. Black people, we don't want to do that. You know, we don't want to do that. I don't want to live next to somebody. I got to show I got more money than you. I got to build a bigger house than you. You know, it's all vanity. You wonder why we're failing. You know, we don't want to live in that sort of thing where, like this. Look at Israel, right? You got Jews that were middle class Jews, but they live in these apartments and planned communities right there. Way lower than they lived in America, but they just like living among each other. You know, so when people ask the question, well, why they? Yeah, because a lot of Africans don't want to do that. You know, if you got a degree, you know, why would you want to live in the same vicinity as somebody who might be a skilled electrician? You want to show that you have a degree, and having a degree, you got a big mansion and whatnot. You know, so that's what it is. That's a problem. And the bottom line, people are not thinking about collective infrastructure, the nation building. All they think about is themselves. Everybody's out for themselves. Let's talk about this tonight. You know, everybody wants to talk. Instead of saying, you know something, we have a plan. We got 2,000. JT Bigger Figure had 2,000 people. Why didn't they have a planned community? They could have raised the money and said, look, let's build a planned community, right? You know, like the one that we saw in Liberia, the people building in Liberia, where people could basically have all the amenities. That's what all you need is the basics, you know? But people want to do their own thing. They want to get their own land, and they want to build a big house and whatnot. Take 10 years to build a big house and whatnot, you know, and everything like that. So and when it doesn't work out, people get ashamed and embarrassed, you know? So that's what the problem is, you know? So we have to rethink this Pan-Africa. The Pan-Africa has to have some sort of unity. I don't see why people, if you're going to go, why you people can't plan to live in groups. I have not, Bomani is the only one that has a planned community. The only one. Can you show me any place else that have, well, there's other planned communities in Ghana, but they're really quiet. I don't think they're really Pan. When you visit at one time, I don't know the Pan-Africans in nature, but, you know, but they're building their own community.
A lot of elements.
you know. But nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to say, look, let's build a planned community, right? You got a house, you got we have a clubhouse, we got the tennis court, we got a gymnasium, a gym there, we got a bowling alley, we got this, we got all these things right here. We got a commissary, we got a shopping center. Nobody wants to talk like that. You know, so when we don't do that, you know, that we're just basically setting ourselves up for individual failure. And that's what we're talking about tonight. You know, we have to put the effort in, you know, and we have to start being like this. It's not enough just to say I'm a Pan-African, then you going off doing your own thing, like, you know, like on some Book of Eli shit. You know, I'm doing my own thing. And where's the Pan-African unity at? Everybody's Pan-African, so it comes down to contributing money and living in some organized structure. You know, you have to. If you don't think Bomani and I are the people for you, then you form the Pan-African group yourself and say, look, this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to build and everything like that. But I'm not accepting anybody doing individual stuff anymore. You know, telling somebody, oh, send your money here, but you could have your own individual thing and everything. Where's the centralized planning? Well, this is what where's the school? I've never seen anybody talk about, okay, where the kids going to go to school at? Are we going to take some of this money and build an educational trust fund to build schools and buildings and stuff like that? You know, no one's even thinking about that thing. Where are the children at? Any people got children? Any people got children? You know, where's the money for the parks and the playgrounds for the children? You know, so just a bunch of middle-aged people going over there talking about I'm living in Africa and everything like that, and we're starting to look like fools with all these mistakes in places like Tanzania and stuff like that. We're starting to look like fools. You know, we're not doing our homework. We're not doing our due diligence. We're not pulling together as a group and showing that we have intelligence. You know, or do we? Or we don't. Maybe we don't have the intelligence we thought we did. You know, because like I said, everybody else when they go to some place, they're usually working together. You know, they're working together. There's a African American. There's a Ghanaian association. There's so many Liberian associations in America, I can't even remember them all, you know, and they basically work together and they stick together and everything like that. No one's telling them to stop being Liberian and stop being Senegalese and everything. They work together, which is smart and intelligence. A lot of Black Americans, well, they don't mess with us. They don't mess with us because we ain't got our shit together. What they gonna mess with us for? These people do their own thing. They in a foreign land and everything, so they basically stick with their own countrymen, and they have their own elders and people they look to for advice and everything like that, you know, and they stick with each other. A big house in Liberia. Yeah. Okay, do your thing. Look, I have no problem with people what they want to do. A lot of people are building big houses in Liberia, but I'm just saying. You know, if you do it, that's fine. But the whole thing is, though, I think is if people start talking about groups, and you got people talk about they're doing something on the continent and stuff like that, it should be done as a group, and it should be, or let's say, I would like to see people build a whole community of luxury houses, you know, and stuff like that. But where are the banks? Where are the mortgage companies? Where are all these things that you could accommodate them with? You know, you got people selling people land and everything, but where's the mortgage companies? Where's the insurance companies? What are the laws, you know, in place? So people basically on their own zeal and their own enthusiasm just throw money to Africa and everything and think it's going to stick. It doesn't work like that. You know, it doesn't work like that. A lot of people haven't been to the continent, you know, and they basically go giving people money that they haven't seen the land, they have not seen, they haven't checked out the laws. They don't have a lawyer looking over the documents and making sure everything is on the up and everything. And so that's exactly what happens. That's exactly what happens. So I can't keep feeling sorry for people that keep making these mistakes and everything. You got to come out and say, look, I don't know what I'm doing. And like I said, the more we work together, the more successful we'll be. You know, the more successful we'll be. So, you got any more comments, Bomani? I see a bunch of them up there.
Yeah, these are the same comments that we have gone through. But yeah, so family, that's why we're doing this Liberia tour, this fact-finding mission to where we can connect and learn together, figure this thing out together, and make some good moves, and avoid all of the issues and problems you're running into in other countries, and just take it slow and take it in another direction. So that's what I come with, family. That's come up with different solutions and options for people as I make my way around different parts of Africa. I just see things, you can just scope things out, and some countries are, can work for you, and some can't, and some will, and some won't. But the main thing is you got to be willing to do the legwork and just kind of match your plan to where you're looking to go to. So everything with us is just based on experience. So that's why we have dates upon. That's why we have countries and dates, because that's our goal. Our goal is to experience Africa and work towards what we're building. So that is the dates on our website, family. AfricaforAfricans.org.
And I will be
earlier what you
there.
saw was Color Genesis book on Liberia. So
Yeah, I will be there. That's going to be the tour. Anybody that's interested in Liberia, I urge you to start putting your money away, get your deposit in for this tour next year. Because this is going to be the tour of a lifetime. It's going to be so interesting, so everything. It's going to firmly cement our commitment to rebuilding where our ancestors started. That's the purpose of this tour. The purpose of the tour is to vindicate, where our ancestors started and what we're going to help complete. Now, Tay Brown said the Israel example is bad. They settle on others' land. I mean, this is what I'm talking about. If you build, I don't believe a whole country living in cities. Well, did I ever say the whole country should live in cities? I never said that. But if the people in the rural areas, they have to move to where the infrastructure is.
Just enjoy trolling you.
Yeah, infrastructure is, say in the rural areas of America, aren't they, look, let me tell you something how it is, right? In the development, let's say first world, right? First world means the fact that everybody has access to, in a radius, to hospitals, clinics, and everything. And even in the most rural areas in America, right? Because I do health insurance, right? You have to have a hospital within at least 50 miles of a population. You should have clinics and urgent care within 5 miles of an area, That's not hard to do. That's hard to do if everybody's living hundreds of miles away, right? You have to bring the people to an area, right? Set up new housing. So therefore, instead of everybody trying to say, we need a hospital in this village right here. Maybe you might have to, like China did, relocate whole villages to planned estates and teach them a new way of life. Now, if a village happens to be in an area not too far from a hospital, that's what usually people do, a hospital and the main police station and fire station, everything, within a radius. And that's what it means by first world. Most people in the first world country means you live within a radius of, you live on the grid. You have, if not just the electrical line, right? You also have the sewer line, the water, pipe-borne water, stuff like that. Sometimes if in a pipe-borne area, people live too far, it takes a lot to dig pipes that's hundreds of miles long. If the people live within a pipe, Liberia was blessed the fact that when they started building the pipelines and the water towers in the 60s and everything, majority of the indigenous rural people live within proximity of these places because Liberia had a very small population. Okay, now there's some people that live on their land and everything like that. They're never going to be hooked onto the grid. They have to use solar panels and stuff like that. That's stuff like that. They have all the modern amenities because they have solar panel and everything like that. But since they live off the grid, for the most part, that's considered the third world. But when people live on the grid, right? They live on the grid. They use supermarkets and they have access to transportation. They got communication. Now, another thing that's helping out the rural area in some countries is they're using drone technology. Ghana's now using drone technology. What that means is this. if a hospital or clinic can't get medicine, right, they're using drones to fly a thing. So that's basically, Rwanda is doing the same thing too. Areas that are far outside the grid or a hospital grid, right, hospital radius, right, they're using drone technology. So that's another alternative. Okay, in the first world, right, the warehousing and everything like that is in driving distance or for couriers to easily get to medicines, vaccines, to someplace and everything. Now, some countries in Africa are solving that problem, right, of using drone technology. So you could do that. That's an alternative, right? Using drone technology, then people could stay out there in the rural areas because they could be serviced because of drone technology. You see how it works? You know, off-grid living. Jewel, also a choice. Why don't you go to Liberia and tell them about off-the-grid living? Everybody I talk to wants to be hooked up to LEC. You know, you got most of the areas in Liberia, in the Monrovia radius, and the Mount Coffee area are hooked up to the power grid. I didn't see any solar panels. I didn't see any electrical generators. 2 years ago, I heard a lot of electric generators, but I don't hear it. But why? Because fuel is so freaking expensive, right? Everybody's like, let me hook up with LEC. LEC for a month is only $25 to $30. You know, in Nigeria, they want to build big, inefficient compound that the power grid can't even support. You know, I need more information on that. You know. Yeah, like I said, Nigeria has more population, you know, so the main thing is it has to be coordinated. If those compounds were in a densely populated in an area by itself, then the power grid could do it. But when you got one compound over here, other compound way over here, a couple like 20 miles over here, and everything like that, the power grid can't. That's why Africa is not developing. It's just poor planning, you know. You know, the indigenous people in Liberia are modern. They got cell phones, they got everything. So she's talking a bunch of friggin' foolishness and nonsense, you know, telling people to move to see the idea like Jewel. She wants to live in America. She's sitting there in her house, right, probably eating some friggin' fried chicken, you know what I'm saying, popcorn, watching Netflix, telling the friggin' Liberians, they'll friggin' knock you upside the head if you go there and tell them, oh, I don't want to be cut to LEC. Everybody in Brewerville, you know, Brewerville is about to get one more section on LEC. They want LEC. They want modernization. They don't want to hear none of your freaking nonsense. You know, all your foolishness. You know? If the indigenous people, like they got the rural land, they're moving to the city. Monrovia, most of the population is in Monrovia. Don't tell me that crap, you know? They're in Monrovia right now. You know, why don't they go back to the rural areas? Why? Because they want the bright lights, the big city. That's why they came there in the first place. Why don't these people go back to Grangita, right? I know you're a crime lady, you know. Go back to Grangita and build something up at that place. You know? You want them to take over there. Nobody wants to take over their lands, you know? So all these people, oh yeah, you just want to take over their lands and whatnot, you know? What about the so-called indigenous people that are squatting on lands, like the Caesar family? They're evicting so many people left and right. My friend Sam Cooper, you know, the place I got in Monrovia, you know, he said that one part where you can have that as an office, right? He had some deadbeats, right? Were squatting in his place, hadn't paid him rent in 3 years. People could easily go back to Sino County and town and everything like that. But where they at? They're in Monrovia. They don't want to go back to the rural areas and live the rural life. They want the modern city. You know? They want the modern city. Nobody asked people to come there. A lot of these people aren't even from Liberia. A lot of these people are coming from the Ivory Coast. How you got so many people speaking French on the streets of Monrovia? They ain't from Liberia. They're from Ivory Coast. They're from Guinea. What is it about Liberia that they love so much? They hate and love the same thing. That's between the Caesar family and the police. Yeah, no, but also, you know, we got the Caesar family. The most beautiful story. They had a hotel on Caesar Beach. I mean, it was so beautiful. He showed me the pictures from the 60s. That whole clan of the Caesar Beach is the most beautiful place in Liberia, to tell you the truth. You know, and now they're basically sticking up and say, yeah, we built a dynasty, the Caesar dynasty there, you know? And now they're saying, yeah, it was something to be proud of. Before, these people that sponsored that coup had our people so in terror and everything. Now, because of me, because they know they got people like me backing them and whatnot, they're coming out and being proud of what their ancestors built, and they're basically taking their friggin' their land back that they rightfully own. And the indigenous people got the majority of land. If you look at who has the most land in Liberia outside of government land, it's the indigenous people. They got all of Bon County, they got all the stuff like this, but they do nothing with it. Don't tell me about
until you build something, brother.
Until you build something on there and whatnot, there's something they want it back. But they know they can't do that in Liberia. You know, this ain't Ghana. Until you build something there and they say, oh, you know something, we're on land. No, sorry. According to record, we got Liberia, they got courts. You know?
Are they effective? Are the courts effective? That's the one thing.
Yes, the court. When it comes to land and whatnot, that's one thing the Liberians got right is the land and courts and whatnot, you know? And as a matter of fact, the courts are so, I don't know how they do it because Liberians sue each other over every little thing. You know, there's always been like that. They've always been like that, courts and stuff like that. That's how the country, since the country was 7, they've always been in court. That's how they settle things, in court. That civil court, criminal court, and everything. Their court system is really, really not good, effective. It's the oldest court system in West Africa. So the court system goes by the law, what the law is. You know, so if you legally got this and everything, you're good. So, you say you never heard of America. What about Helen Cooper, The House on Sugar Beach? Read her book. You know, father busted his behind. The postmaster general built a beautiful house on Caesar Beach. The house was beautiful. It was futuristic, you know. You know, so the bottom line is this. The bottom line is people came in there, took their property, killed people, drove them to America and everything. Now these people are coming back and they're taking what's theirs. Simple as that. You know, so right is right and wrong is wrong, you know. So read Helen Cooper, how she went there back in, I think what year it was like 2000 and, what year was that, 2000, I think she looked at it in 98, right? She had been back, she was born in Liberia, but she fled because of the coup. Then when she came back there was an indigenous family living in the house, and she was like, it was their family property, but they let them stay. And say, yeah, this family just moved in and whatnot. You know, nice people and everything. They just saw the house abandoned. They just moved in and been living there ever since. But she's like, it's not. It's all good. You can keep it. Keep the place. Let them live there. You know, but you know, not anymore. You know, people just doing what they got to do. This is how when you say only black people own land. Okay, that's a little sticky. Because if you are a white person and they got it back through the courts, the laws, you know, the courts and the laws. They got deeds to the land and everything like that, right? So they evicted them. Because why? The government of Liberia, and also people think, oh, we got the indigenous people, we're in power. That doesn't mean anything. You still got laws. So you people won nothing. I suggest you come home to Liberia and start building something. Go to your rural area and start building something. So sitting in America worrying about what's evidently going to take. DK said the law land. Yeah, theoretically only black people own land, right? But the Farmington Hotel is owned by Lebanese. But if you have a big enough investment and the country knows it's going to benefit from it, like the ecotourism thing, right? Really nice. I went there. It's nice, you know. It's based in Marshall, and everything is Bassa. It's an ecotourism thing. It's really nice, you know. And they got the water slide for the kids and everything like that. It's right. It's owned by I think a German couple, and the whole staff there is all Liberians. So Liberians after 200 years understand. Okay, if you got something you're going to build and it's going to bring in money and everything like that, they'll give you the land. It's not written in stone. But no white people is going to go there and say, I want all this farmland right here and everything. No, that's not going to happen. I had this Afrikaner guy, this board, he used to troll me all the time. He still trolls me, right? This guy, man, if he's in Angola right now, and I tell him, if I ever find you, I'm going to get you. He said, oh, you're never going to find me, Carla. He's a South African. He fought in the South African, the Angolan War, right? And he's in Angola, and he just brags about all the underage Angolan girls he has and everything. He says nothing you could do about it. And then he tries to go in there and say, Kala, you're African, you're Black American, you ain't born in Africa. I was born in Africa also. I said, dude, I call him Boer. I said, Boer, his name was Jonah Hannibus, you know. I said, when I ever catch you, bro, you know it's going to be over. So anyway, basically, he tried to go to Liberia. He's like, I hate Liberia, man. They told me I want to learn. I want to learn. He's calling on a Blog Talk radio show. I want to learn, and they rejected me because I'm white. That's right. We don't want no fucking Afrikaners, no Europeans settling in Liberia. That's not going to happen. You know, but if you have something, you want to build an industrial park, you know, hey, you know, we'll give you the land in Liberia you want to build an industrial park or something like that. But a lot of Europeans, they come over there and they get land and they get loans from their back in their country and whatnot, and they come over there like they own everything. That's not going to happen in Liberia. It also, in the Constitution, it prohibits anyone or any foreigner really from owning indigenous land. Land that's indigenous, tribal, and everything is completely prohibited for anybody to own that land or do anything on that land. Now, land property, now land that's deeded, a lot of indigenous people are turning their land into private property. You know, an investor could come in and build and everything like that. That's what a lot of people are doing in Bone County and Nimba and stuff like that. They have foreign investors and partners that build stuff and everything. That's fine. But it's an orderly process of land ownership. It ain't like you just come there and just own land and everything. That's not going to happen. Liberia is the last country in Africa, you know, for Black people to do something with. Angola too, because Angola is so freaking big. It's just so big. You can own land like that. You can build in Angola. It won't, because it's like twice the size of Nigeria. Okay, nothing was changed to turn laws against. How can you look? The bottom line is this, right? The laws were never against so-called Americans, right? Like that, right? The reason for the coup was a bunch of goons, right? Just saw an opportunity to take over the government in the name of the so-called indigenous people and rob through thing. Now, what they didn't understand was during the 60s and 70s, there was a lot of so-called indigenous people that had property, that were educated, everything that they lost too. You know, our friend Naya, right? He has land in Marshall and whatnot. He's from Nimba County and everything like that, but his family had land in Marshall, and he had to go get some people off his land. So it wasn't just the so-called Americans that own land, own property and everything. John Gibbazon Resort. Gibbazon is a bossa man, you know, he's a rich bossa man. He has a nice hotel in Marshall by the airport. John Gibbazon. The stone architecture is like the one in Decor. I love Liberian stone architecture. You know, it's beautiful. It has boating there, it has jet skis, it has everything there, you know. The John Gibbazon Resort. And he's an indigenous man, you know, but he's a millionaire. The guy that owns the Calabas, right? He bought the Calabas from the Cooper family. And the Calabas, to me, is the best nightclub I've ever seen in my life. And he's indigenous. Do you think he wants lawless people coming there talk about this is why you shouldn't take? No. So this idea that, the indigenous people are going to rise up and get the hell out of here. The indigenous people tell you, go ahead with your that stupid, ignorant country, backward thinking. You know, people are progressing. Liberia is very progressive. And nobody sees that indigenous Congo where we're all, you know, it's all Black people, you know, for the most part.
Like you mentioned, a lot of people are returning, brother. You mentioned a lot of people are returning.
Mm-hmm. I read a guy. This guy's indigenous Liberian, right? Darker skinned brother, right? Full-blooded Liberian indigenous, right? I met him. He's from Philadelphia. He said he retired military, and he says he got a couple of farms and everything like that. He's doing the same thing our ancestors did, but our ancestors weren't allowed to return to America and do anything. He said, "Yeah, I come over here. I'm gonna stay to June. I'm gonna go back." He got, you know, this, that, the other thing. He goes back and he invests in his businesses and everything like that. You know, so that's what Liberians do. My uncle Charlie, he's back. He texted me today. So I'm back in the States. I said, "Yeah, as Bill told me, he's my uncle by marriage." and he has a couple of houses in Liberia, right? He's back in Minnesota. So people come in, they check on their property, they live the Liberian life, they help out with the government or development, and then they go back to the States and everything. That's the Liberian life. So the bottom line is this: they understand why, things happen.
Check this one out.
Even Doe's plan was to take everything. How can you take what's not yours? You take what's not yours. He didn't have no plan. He had no ability to do that. He was like, oh, we're gonna take it back to most of the people. Samuel Doe himself, it was like a robbery. It was criminal. When you say you're gonna take something from somebody else, that's criminal. He didn't have the ability to. When he thought he was gonna do that, what happened was people rose up against him. The students rose up against him and said, "What are you doing?" He massacred like 200 people in the Lutheran church. You celebrate Samuel Doe. He was a cannibal. He ate Pia Pa's testicles, carved them up and ate him right in the executive mansion. That's why nobody wants to live in the executive mansion. He ate people. He was a cannibal. Then he named the stadium after him. He didn't start that stadium. The stadium was started in the early 1970s. People use that as so-called indigenous and whatnot. We're all freaking indigenous to Africa. And what made Liberia work was, like I said, when Elijah Johnson met with King Peter, the white people told King Peter, "You got to get rid of these people on the coast because they're going to ruin the slave trade." King Peter said, "You could stay under a couple conditions. One is your daughter. You have to give your daughters and the girls over to us." And they said, "No, we don't want to give our daughters to you like that." And two is you have to live under our rule, right? Well, they knew that living under their rule means they're living under white people's rule because King Peter's son was educated in England. He was a Negropean. And so basically, Elijah Johnson said, "You know something? Nah, I think. So they marched down there, challenged them, right? In the Battle of Crown Hill, challenged them, and they lost. They lost badly. Blood was soaking the soil. And after that, the Mambas and Days said, "You know something? Let's try to get along with these people." Same thing happened in Maryland. In the Cape Mount, the Divide people, they just said, "You know something? We'll go ahead and start. We'll just go ahead and join the Republic." The Grebos, when they saw how brutal the French was, they said, "No. We're Monrovia sovereignty." Every last single tribe in Liberia signed a treaty. Why? Because they saw if they didn't, they would be under the French or the British. So they said, maybe they'll just bide their time, whatever like that. But they said, okay, like this. And this kept the British and the French out of their territories.
That was smart, ingenious. Line of liberty.
They got a taste of that liberty. The women in Liberia, indigenous women, got a taste of walking around free and not being bound to getting married at the age of 13. So they said, "You know something? We like that."
Your favorite troll?
Americans said, first of all, there was no such people called Americos.
Americos.
Should I break that down to this ignorant person?
Keep on doing it, brother. Keep on breaking it down.
Let me break it down to you. First of all, at the time, right, in the mid-1800s, there was no such thing as America. People in America didn't call themselves Americans. People in America called themselves New Yorkers, Jerseyans, Texans, Virginians. So when they came to Liberia, they had the same mentality, or they called themselves by their religious denomination: Presbyterians, Methodists, Baptists. Those were the things people identified themselves by, Masons, and all stuff like this. So therefore, when they came to Liberia, the idea of America didn't happen until the 20th century with Henry Ford and the World War, after post-World War I. Then everybody started about America. America has an idea that exists. Most people in America, that's why we had a Civil War, didn't see this idea of America. So how could, if white Americans saw themselves as Texans, Virginians, Carolinians, and Floridians and everything, why would these people, black people, call themselves Americans when they weren't even American citizens? Or even the Caribbeans are America. So the Caribbeans are America. What about the Congo recaptures? Are they Americans too, Jewel? all America. See, your obsession with America is a problem. The Americo-Liberian is something that the Europeans coined. Nobody calls themselves. There's no record of anybody calling themselves Americo-Liberian. They said this was Liberia, and were Negroes or people of color or Africans, people of African heritage in this country called the Republic of Liberia. Nobody calls themselves, I'm an Americo-Liberian. Nobody had any pride about being American. That's you guys. You guys worship of America. You read what Hillary Teague wrote about America, his scathing thing why Liberia should become a republic. He wrote some damning stuff about America. You know, don't tell me stuff about America and everything like that. There was no relationship between Liberia and America that was anything significant. Liberia's best friend in the world was actually Germany. And then Spain and the Netherlands. Those countries helped Liberia a lot in its early years. Germany took a liking to Liberia. Had Liberia sided with Germany during World War I and World War II, it'd be probably a much further along country than it is now. But twice they had to get rid of Germany, a country that was actually helping Liberia develop, right? And expel German diplomats and businessmen. Twice. But the only thing in the second time, you had black African American diplomats help Liberia get funding for the Freeport with the Lend-Lease program from Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And the report was built, completed in 1947, but they built the airport and they built the Freeport of Monrovia. So learn some history about your own country. You know, when people sitting there, and you wonder why, I always wonder why, when people always talk about, oh yeah, I'm worried about Liberia's Civil War. What they worry about is with the stuff they see online. 90% of what you hear about Liberia is negative. Oh, black apartheid. You know, racist people writing stuff, their own narrative about Liberian history. And so they basically, oh, that country's unstable. You got the indigenous. You think the indigenous people walking around with bones in their nose, ready to rise up at any time. And you wonder why it's hard for us to get investors to come there and do something. So, I'm an African American, and I'm trying to sell people on the idea of major investors on Liberia. Oh, about the Civil War. Oh, that Civil War. Where do they get this from? They get this from people like Jewel online all the time, constantly belittling our country. You know? It's just a sad situation. Sad situation. Hey, Bomani, you're muted.
I'm trying to get all your guests on, but you ran them away.
Oh.
There you go, family. Join us for the late night shift, Bomani and Kala. As we race towards Pan-Africanism and nationhood. Everything is not just a fight. They are facts.
Also, she said something about the flag. Do you know that the red, white, blue flag in America wasn't really the American flag until like the 20th century? That was a flag the U.S. Navy flew, you know, and the U.S. Army flew. It wasn't the idea of a national flag didn't come into the 20th century. You know, when everybody started saying, I pledge allegiance to America. So Liberia had its flag as a national flag before America was. America was a collection of different states. You know, so the 20th century said, we're unite under this flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of America. And the lone star of Liberia was a one single star and 11 white stripes, 12 red stripes. You know? And the star that was basically being light in the midst of darkness. You know, that's what the Lone Star meant. The Lone Star, the Lone Republic. You know, Liberia stood alone against the world. That's what the Lone Star meant. It had nothing to do with America. Yo, people hate this. Like, yo, check this out. When the South African team was there, right? Everybody in Liberia had their bandanas. I had a bandana on. My girl had a bandana on. Everybody had a Liberian flag tied in a do-rag as a bandana. The whole country. Everybody was basically a special thing. Yeah. And also those poles that they're doing, they're finally digging those poles up. You know, right down Redemption Road, they're finally digging those poles. They're building something there, you know. The Liberians are ready to move past that history.
There you go. Yes, family, a new Liberia, a new energy, a new movement.
Yeah, they discredit disinformation is to discredit ancestors. You know, that's all it is. Just like everything, they just said to discredit Garvey, right? They said he was doing mail fraud and everything like that. He was a scammer. You know, this is nothing new. They're doing the same thing to Paul Kagame, same thing they did to Bill Cosby. You know, any black man is in their way, they try to destroy. The poles are still there, but they're getting dug up. They're still there, but they're getting dug up. I remember 2 years ago when I was there and I was driving. And all of a sudden, I knew when I turned down Redemption Road what I was going to see. And my driver was like, got really quiet and whatnot, you know. And I looked over there, and he was like, "Yeah, that's where the man." He knew the connection between me and so he was like a little somber. He was like, "Yeah, that's where that happened." There, I said, "I know what those poles are. You know, I know what those poles are. I know what they did. You know, not too far within walking distance of the executive mansion." So now I see a lot of excavators out there, digging up the beach. I don't know what they're building there, but I guess the poles and all that's coming down. They're building something there. So all we have to do is do my feeble attempt to tell it like it is. Not saying that our ancestors were angels. No people are. Were some indigenous people mistreated? Of course. You know, but it had nothing to do with their background. It had to do with this plays out all over the world. Let me give you an example, folks. If you don't read books, and that's why when people aren't educated, they don't read a lot of books, right? I used to read a lot of books from India, Japan, China, everything. This idea of the city versus the country, right? The rural side of the country. This plays out even to this day. When people that they call countrymen, like you got the Uyghur people that are moving into the cities of China. They're mistreated. Oh, you bunch of hillbillies and hicks and everything. You're backward. This plays out all over the world. It played out in America. When black people from the rural areas migrate to Harlem and Detroit and everything, they were looked down upon. You're from country. You gotta know how to fit in. When you look corny, you look whack. Liberia is no different. Same thing happened in Nigeria to this day. People from the rural areas, like they're always saying, people move to Rome. When in Rome, what? Do as the Romans do. Hey, I got to fit in. I want to fit in. Remember Eddie Murphy coming to America? We want to look like real Americans. They took all that stuff in this part, New York stuff. You want to fit in. So there was nothing different that happened in Liberia, and nothing different, Yeah, people that were city, urbanized, and more sophisticated, they kind of look down on people. It's like that to this day. But it had nothing to do with background because you got indigenous people. Let me tell you something. The indigenous people background can tell them these motherfuckers know how to dress. I felt out of place. These motherfuckers got their hair cut. And every Liberian man you see got his hair perfectly cut, groomed, nice shoes, nice slacks, like everything. Because you want to fit in. It's a society you live in. The women look immaculate. Got their best on all the time. They don't look sloppy like they do in America, like people pants sagging, women going out there with their bonnets. I had a woman yesterday with her bonnet on, and Royal Farm just giving a hard time and whatnot. I just looked at, I'm like, girl, take that bonnet. Had these big, fat, sagging legs and whatnot. She had her bonnet on and her freaking pajamas on with her freaking slippers on in public and whatnot. That was yesterday. But it's like that. Is it class, style, and everything like that? That's what it is all over the world. Particularly among young people. Everybody wants the latest style and everything like that. Monrovia was a place where the latest fashion, styles, and everything, people wanted to fit in. E.J. Roy, no one ever knows what happened to E.J. Roy. His body was never recovered. So we don't know if he was assassinated. He was impeached and imprisoned. And then he broke out of jail and everything like that. And from out here, he drowned in the Messerado River. We don't know. No one knows exactly. But he wasn't tied to a pole and executed.
Good explanation. Good job.
No. Did China have the alcohol system and make it hard for those who rule their moves? Yeah. It happens all over the damn world. What are you going to do? Take the Chinese out there and tie them to the pole and kill them? You see what I'm talking about? People take these things that happen in human life all the time and make, oh, see, the indigenous people, look at this. You know? They hold Liberia up to the standards that the rest of the world. You go to, look at even cartoons. Remember that one cartoon back in the days where the one wolf, he had a wolf that was a hick and he was a cousin, you know? And the guy goes, he takes it to the city, and the guy tries going over the girl, and he tells her, hits his cousin over the head, and when that act right, cousin, you know, that's been played out all over the world. You know, people clowning hillbillies and rural people and everything like unsophisticated. You know, that's not true. Chinese do not have what you call it, police stations in America. Stop that. I had to deal with an idiot Frank Roscoe today. I had to put him in his place. But this is what happens, right? In enclaves in America, right? In America, you have certain areas of Brooklyn. You have a Muslim police force, right? You could get anybody could get a police charter in America. A college campus could get one. The Port Authority can get one. And some areas you got to apply for a police charter. And if you're living in an area like a trade zone or a wharf or a pier or something like that, where you got a lot of Chinese nationals and everything like that, yes, they can have their own police because they're basically trying to govern a certain area. It's not like they're taking over America. Those Chinese people can't arrest an American citizen. But they're in areas where there's like Chinatowns where there are basically lots of Chinese and everything. They speak the language and they got they crack down on illegal activity. They're not on the behest of the Chinese government. The idea, so you keep thinking the Chinese are taking over America. No, you need to worry about the Chinese really taking over your country in Africa, because the Chinese got breast power and extraterritoriality jurisdiction in Africa. All they have to do is pay off a local politician or police, and they'll grab your butt up, even take you back to China. That's not going to happen in America. So compare America, a first world country, to your country and deal with your situation. Productive dialogue, man. They really want it tonight, brother Bomani. They really want it.
Nobody else have anything else to say other than your buddy?
I heard they ran Bladden out of the country with rumors that he was sleeping with someone's wife. Yeah, that's rumors. There's rumors that he was sleeping with somebody's wife, but the real thing was he took out a loan from the British government, right? Liberia was making it on their own, but he decided, it wasn't Bladden. It was Bladden that ran out of Liberia because he failed in the Golinas thing. Biden was a father of Pan-Africanism, right? He wasn't a Republican. You know, okay, let's put it like this. He wasn't a Republican. He basically didn't think that the idea of the republic was necessary, right? He just thought a cultural cohesion between all the blacks would be better under British rule. So he basically, when he was the senator or ambassador, secretary, said, something like that, in the Golinas, the negotiations favored the British, and he basically caused the failure, and the Liberia lost a huge swath of territory. And so that's why he, in my novel, Journey to the Promised Land, I talked about that. He's a character in my book, Journey to the Promised Land. He was in Four-Way Bay College when this happened, and I brought his character to life, you know? And he was basically just a broken man talking about, I'll never go back to Liberia again. He was living in Sierra Leone. He said, I'll never go back to that country again, you know, blah, 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 you know. And he was way ahead of his time, you know, but Liberia was founded on the principle of a black republic. Blyden basically was, you know, he came from the Danish Virgin Islands. He was a Pan-Africanist, right? But that's the whole thing. There's differences between the the Pan-Africanists that grew out of American slavery and American racism. Then Blyden was born a free black person in a Danish version of highly educated, right? Islands. He didn't have the same sort of concerns about imperialism and racism. He never really talked about imperialism and racism, stuff like that. He just thought, well, we should build a culture based on traditional African culture, Islam, and some aspects of Christianity and everything like that, you know? Whereas the Liberians, like J.J. Roberts' contemporaries, realized that only way that can be construed is by having strong nation states. You know, that's why he clashed with a lot of his contemporaries. He was friends with E.J. Roy, but they fell out. Somebody said that one of them slept with each other's wife. I don't know. That was a rumor. You know, one of them slept with each other's wife or something like that. I don't know what happened. But that's not what the reason why he left Liberia. It's because he failed in the Galina's campaign. So that was not true. So yeah, Elwood Wilmot Blyden, you know, in my novel, he's chapter when the rivals got to Sierra Leone, his chapter is called let's see, I think it's chapter 7. No, chapter 7. Yes, chapter 7. Liberia. It's called Liberia. Edward Wilmot Blyden, father of Pan-Africanism. You know. Okay. Let's see. Dream stories, 12 tales. What the heck?
From St. Thomas all the way to Liberia. Unbelievable.
All right. Let's see. But like I said, folks, if you really want to hear a good novel, hopefully this book will be made into a movie one day. Journey to the Promised Land. It's about the exodus of 1878 from Charleston, South Carolina to Sierra Leone and Liberia. You know?
Correct right here.
That's not true. Let me say something about this, right? So if you don't know. And I'm gonna give you all some history lessons, right? When E.J. Roy came to Liberia, right? E.J. Roy and Blyden were both full-blooded Igbos, okay? They came from free black Igbos that lived in the West. E.J. Roy came to America. His family might have came to America under the British, you know, from Nigeria, something like that, and settled in America. But he lived in Ohio. He was born in Ohio. And Edward Wilmot Blyden was highly educated. E.J. Roy was the first black person to graduate from the University of Ohio in the 1830s. He moved to Terre Haute, Indiana, where he built up several black businesses among free black populations. He moved to Indiana because the people in Newark, Ohio, the white people just said one day, all the black people in the town had to leave. That was in 1824. You all had to leave. So they all trekked to Indiana. They left the town. They all said, no, they eventually went to Indiana. E.J. Roy was a businessman, highly educated and everything. Him and Blyden became friends. And they basically, these men formed the True Black Man's Whig Party. So basically what they were saying was, up until that time, there was no, that Liberia, for the most part, with the exception of Stephen Allen Benson, Liberia was governed by men of mixed race background. You know, J.J. Roberts and Hillary, Elijah Johnson, and all these other, Randall Cooper, and all these other people were mixed race background. But they said that they wanted Liberia to be a true black man's Whig Party, right? So they formed that party, True Black Man's Whig Party. And when Roy came there, he came there with a boatload of stuff, right? And there was this tall, fine-looking black man with a short afro. And he went to J.J. Roberts and I was like, look, my name is E.J. Roy. I need some men to unload my ship. And he became the star, like a rock star. They're like, who is this black man? You know, he looked like an indigenous Nigerian and whatnot, full-blooded. Because remember something, in time in America, you had to be light-skinned or mixed race to lead. He came there and said, I need men to do this or that. So all these people like, wow. So everybody started talking, who's this guy? Who's this guy, you know? And then they started talking about, man, this guy should get into politics. He said, I'm a businessman. He built a fleet of ships in Liberia. He's one of the richest men in the world. He was exporting cotton, coffee, and everything to America, you know? And he had his own fleet of ships and everything, you know? And he was importing and exporting and got rich. And he joined the merchant princes of Liberia, called the merchant princes, and all these other social clubs and everything. And he became, in these elite circles, and he formed him and Blyden formed the True Black Man's Whig Party. It later became the True Whig Party and everything like that. And they got the support of a new class of people who are these are the upriver people. These are the African Americans and Caribbeans and things that were descendant of the slave trade. The early Liberian settlers were descendants of free black people who'd never been slaves. The descendants of the transatlantic slave trade settled upriver. They settled in places like Clay Ashland. They settled in places like Burrillville, places like White Plains, Ruxville, you know, Carricksburg and everything. And these people built these nice communities up there and prospered and everything. And so this basically, there was a tension between the Republican Party and the True Whig Party. True Whig Party represented the working class, the New Reach people and everything. The Republican Party represented the old Presbyterian, the people that came there, connected with the ACS and all stuff like this and everything. And so J.J. Roberts was like a mediator, but he was loved by both groups. You know, he was a father, he loved both groups. But E.J. Roy became president, and there was some people in the Republican Party did not like that, right? So they're the ones who plotted his downfall. He was even attacked in the streets by some of these Republican early Liberians. And then what happened was, when Hillary Johnson became president, right? He was the first Liberian president that was born in Liberia. Both the groups came together as one people. You know, they settled their differences and everything of color and background, and there was also a tension between Liberians who were from Virginia and Liberians that were from New York and stuff like that. That was the biggest tension, you know. Where you came from in America was a tension. So this idea of Americans and everything. The people from Maryland was their own country at the time. They didn't mess with people from things. They were different people. You were from, you had the Mississippi settlement. They were their own people, you know. And they took a lot to unite all these people that came from different backgrounds in America. So this idea, they're all Americans and we'll all stick together. No, it wasn't like that. A lot of people married into the indigenous tribes, you know. A lot of indigenous tribes were not came on to the side of the Republic. They got education. They became part of the Republic, you know, particularly the Gribbos, you know. Well, not necessarily. That's not necessarily true, you know, because remember something, right? When you say Africans, right, at the time, you had this thing called the African Methodist Episcopal Church. Everybody in Liberia understood that they were of African origin. They never went there. They were African origin, but there was two different things, right? This was the eve of this was modern times, okay? There's African, right? And then there's the African way of life, right? The way of life they wanted was a modern commerce system, modern rule of law, courts, you know, education, stuff like that. J.J. Roberts took his money and built Liberia College. You know, they built institutions and everything. They wanted an institutional, a Republican, rule of law sort of country. But then again, you got the Africans in the interior. There was still many people in the far interior that was still hunting and gathering and doing ways of their ancestors. So there was two different Africans. Both were Africans. One was modern Africa, and one was traditional. It was two different things, like 2,000 years of history in between them. And the idea was to get the indigenous people to realize that this way was the way forward. And were they right? Yes, because the people that did not modernize, they end up getting their lands taken away by the French and everything. See, when the Berlin Conference no, this is true. A lot of Africans did not want education because it was a threat to the old order. Let me explain that to you.
Absolutely. Good point, Colin. Break it down.
It was a threat to the old order. The chiefs and everything like that had it made. They had 20 wives and everything. What did they need education for? Education didn't mean anything to them. So they resisted education. and people had to run away to join the settlers to get educated. Yeah, they gave their kids away because they to be educated because they didn't believe in if you are a Grebo man from the interior. There's two types of Grebos. There was seaside Grebos and there was the hinterland Grebos. The hinterland Grebos said, "What do we need this for? We got everything we need here. We don't need to be this education from the West." But the educated Grebos, right, who saw the writing on the wall, right, they became the elite. They said, "Look, the people who chose educated Grebo land became rich. They basically had modern everything. So it's like this. So the whole country understood that going toward this idea of education and building schools was the way to go. And that's why Liberians are very, very big on education. To their detriment, they're big on education because Liberians valued people, like my brother Sam said, lettered. He goes, when he met me years ago, he said, "Carl's very lettered." That's what they always say, lettered. That's a Liberian term. You're lettered. That means you're well read. Carl's very lettered. That's what Sam used to say. I reminded him. I said, "Yeah, I remember you told me that." That was 12 years ago. He told me Carl's very lettered. That means I've read a lot of books. That means you're lettered. You're educated. And in Liberia, the more educated you are, the more your status is to this day. It does not mean that the people don't appreciate the dance, the culture, the foods, other things, but you have to modernize like everybody else. What happened in 1980 coup was the people at the bottom of the indigenous society were in the military. They took power by force. No one said that the indigenous people should not be the ones running the country. They're the majority. Right now the indigenous people who run the country, they're the majority. But what happened was they took took power the wrong way. Yeah, it's a few people. Look. The majority of people in Liberia want education. Now, the people that you talking about, right? They're your houseboys, and I feel sorry for these people because what their kids are doing on the streets of Monrovia? They instead of being in school getting education, they're selling bottled waters and in traffic. I think those people, those kids want an education and want a better future. Why you keep talking about? Why don't you just say, "Look, you know something? Yes, let's move forward and everything like that." The only group of people in the world that want to keep going backwards is the Africans people, The history of the Congo and people, and I guess it was done by the so-called indigenous people when, trying to rewrite history and everything like that, Trying to rewrite history and try to, like this, because the bottom line is this. There's 43 years, there's indigenous people all in the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court, the Temple of Justice, all the legislatures, the Senate, the president, the administrators, all from mostly indigenous background. Janine Cooper is the only person, she's the Minister of Agriculture, the only person I can see that's Congo background. And now they got started this thing is, the Congo people are really the reason why the investments from America is not coming in here. No, it's not that. It's the tribalists and the indigenous people that's keeping people from coming to Liberia and putting the stake because they see that stuff as divisive and they don't get it. Even if you believe all this nonsense, you keep your mouth shut and whatnot. Say, like you got this girl now, she's in Liberia and she's from the Bassa tribe right now, but she's educated. She's like doing tours and how beautiful our country is. She's in Bong this week, and we're gonna go on her boat rides in Edina. This is a beautiful history, beautiful country. Liberia has a lot to offer: beautiful beaches, beautiful history, and everything like that. But instead of showing the beauty of their country, all they do is showing the ugly of their country. They wonder why, geez, why are we suffering? Why are we sitting there? Instead, you got these Lebanese and all Chinese Chinaman, Indian man enjoying your country while you're sitting in America, fighting with me. You should be in your country, enjoying your beautiful country. Dr. Amos Sawyer was a crewman from Sierra Leone. He was a race trader. Everybody's like that guy was single-handedly helped destroy Liberia. He said he'd do it over again. He was the one who instigated that coup in 1980. Because why? He wanted power. And that's a problem with the African mind. They want power. They want progress. They want power. They want power. They want power at all costs. It's nothing's ever their fault. You know, they just want power. And then when they get power, what do they do with it? Nothing. Nothing. Now you got all these people that are freaking. This guy was the biggest race trader that ever lived. He was from the Crew tribe, right? He couldn't get in government because he was incompetent when I called himself doctor one night. But this guy basically was the downfall of Liberia. Him and Marcus Matthews.
Yeah, let's see what he has to say about the, as he quote unquote called the Congo people.
They're obsessed with the Congo people. You know, it's all jealousy. It's all envy and jealousy. He lives the life of a Congo man, but the bottom line is it just bothers him that he's not one. He wants to be. That's why when people want to be something that they're not, you know, look how he wears his beard. Look how he wears his glasses. You know, he hated his indigenous background. He was born in Sierra Leone, by the way. He was born in Freetown. You know what I'm saying? The Americos. He created this people called the Americos and the Congos and everything.
So he's an orchestrator of all those things.
Yeah, all the Congo people. He started this. This started in the 70s, right? Right after Tolbert went to the UN and spoke out for the Palestinians. That's when all this started.
Oh wow! How about this right here? I haven't seen it yet. So, all right. So let me just play some of it. You can tell me when to stop.
Yeah.
Unless you don't want to hear it.
Just play a little bit. I'll tell you when to stop.
All right, gotcha, man. Here we go.
Imagine a situation in which 2,000 foreigners from a different culture arrive on this coast and try to establish a new society. This will be a very difficult task. It will be a very difficult task today, as indeed it was in the 1800s. The social objectives of the settlers was to establish a new society that would practice Christianity and extend the values and ways of Western civilization to all of Africa. During the early periods of the state formation, there were three social policies conceived and promulgated by the Liberian government. The first was a policy of assimilation. The second was a policy called the settlements policy. And the third was a policy of educational expansion.
Now stop
Let
right
me try
there.
to treat each of these.
Stop right there. Now, everything he just mentioned, isn't that what any civilization, educational expansion, you know, settlement, settle with what the land is. And also, when they say Christianity, this meant the idea of brotherhood of man and stuff like that. That's what they were talking about, you know? So it's like, you know, that's nonsense. So he says, educational expansion, right? So what he doesn't say is the fact that had they not came to that Liberia, there would be no Liberia. Liberia would have been swallowed by the Portuguese, the French, and everything. There would be no country called Liberia that exists to this day.
Facts.
That's the facts, you know. So basically, what it is the fact that the matter is, if those people that came from America were white, you think they will be Amos Sawyer? No. You think Joe will be in here? No. They'll be rejoicing. The blacks in South Africa, white people actually enslaved and murdered them. There's no evidence of that in Liberia. You know, King Leopold killed 10 million Congolese. That did not happen in Liberia. 10 million people were butchered and castrated and everything to produce a thing. Nigeria, the British Royal African Company and several other companies took over all its palm oil trade and got rich. Same thing they did in India. So the bottom line is the bottom line is this: what are they complaining about? They're complaining the fact that another group of black people brought this sort of civilization and government to them. That's what it's all about. It has nothing to do with anything else. Had it been white people that sell in Liberia, they wouldn't have had any problem. All these other countries in Senegal and all those countries, they're still speaking French. Ivory Coast, Cote d'Ivoire, and whatnot, they're so Europeanized and everything. Oh, so in other words, cultural expansion and everything. Well, look at the Cote d'Ivoire. They're all speaking friggin' French. Look at friggin' Burkina Faso, Guinea, and all those other places like that. They all speak French. They're all francophone. But yeah, I had this one country in Africa, right? Yeah, they spoke English. Yes, they did all stuff like this. But there's the only country in Africa where the people kept their identity. So all they want to do is sit back and just, Liberia is this or that. Show me another country in Africa that had a better. Look at Cameroon. War in Cameroon right now. There's war in Ivory Coast. There's war in Nigeria. War in Sudan. All over the freaking continent, there's war and conflict. People can't get along with each other. Nigeria. There's a civil war brewing in Nigeria, in 3 different parts of Nigeria. There's UN troops patrolling Nigeria right now as we speak. Nigeria had no less than 15 coups. Millions of people died during the Biafra War. Look at the Congo, Eastern Congo, all conflict. So anybody's these ideas, Liberia, they wanted to discredit this country and whatnot. We cannot let them have, they have no credibility in this. No credibility whatsoever. Zimbabwe, sanctions on Zimbabwe to this day. Look at Zambia. They put the Chinese you go drive to Zambia on the street signs and everything. They got Chinese written in there. It's basically a China stand. All over Africa, there's conflict. But yet they want to talk about this little tiny republic that they basically were forced to basically go to a country and said, let's set up something that we could all survive with. Gave the people education. The Europeans didn't give education to natives when they went there. They took more than they gave. So I don't want to hear no more about what Amos Sawyer has to say. It's a bunch of friggin' nonsense. They ain't deflecting nothing, It's a bunch of friggin' nonsense. Imagine trying to build a country, but he's speaking in perfect English diction. Well, if he really, why is he speaking in his native language, wherever the hell it is?
Let's hear his side of the story of what he thought about this man. So that's what I'm trying to get. So he may be a whatever person, but let's hear what he has to say. This one of Jules' people. She's excited. We're playing it.
They listen to these lies. They listen to lies for generations. Like I talked to my auntie, said these Liberians love lies. They lie so much and whatnot. All they do is lie, and then the lies don't even make any sense when they still believe it.
The policy of assimilation. The assimilation policy was begun by the American Colonization Society in 1825 and continued through the 1920s. It was an official policy to promote the, quote, civilizing mission. Through this policy, children from indigenous communities were brought into homes of settler families as apprentices to be trained in the craft, to be educated, and to be taught the ways of Western civilization. To a large extent, the apprenticeship system was successful in the assimilation of the recaptives into settler society. Now, the recaptives.
Let me express. Stop right there. Stop right there. I'm going to point something out right here. Now, when he said the apprenticeship program, do you know if you go to Liberia right now, that beautiful stone masonry that I love so much and whatnot, I'll send you a picture. Liberian houses, stone mason. The indigenous people didn't have stone mason. They didn't know how to build wood frame housing and stuff like that our ancestors brought there, right? So apprenticeship programs and stuff like that happened in America too. You had black people from rural areas that went to wealthier black families and became wards and apprentices. Remember Batman and Robin? Who was Dick Grayson? A ward. His personal ward. That's that ward system was used all over the world at the time. You know, people from poor background in America, they used to people leave babies in bonnets on rich people's steps and whatnot, and rich people raise them. That happened all the time. So this idea of this, if you have like 5, 10 children and whatnot, you know, you want one of your kids to go to these houses and whatnot and get educated. You know, get educated. So they had apprenticeship program. So he said they got an apprenticeship program. They had to learn the ways of it. But what he didn't understand was this: Liberia was not Western civilization. Liberia was Black Western civilization, because all the stuff they learned was 200 years of history in America. You know, how can you basically? It's like Japan. When Japan went to modernize, right? When it went to South Korea, was it studying Western civilization or modern civilization? So he confused it, Western with modern. The African Americans had 200 years, you know, of history in America. They mastered everything from stonemasonry, carpentry, governance, everything. So what he's doing is saying that's Western. For perfect example, what I'm talking about, there are parts of America that were not Western. You go to the rural areas of the Appalachian and in the prairies and everything, people had a low standard of living and they were illiterate. Some towns in the West didn't have any schools at all. So he's portraying like, this is Western civilization, as if all the West was
modern civilization. It's a difference,
you know. So this is what I'm saying. When they tell these narratives, they lie so much, you know. They misrepresent and lie so much. This is Western civilization. No, if you, it's like Bomani. If somebody says to you, "Oh, you're building a nice town and everything," and you talk about having the rule of law, that's a Western town. You know, Chicago's a Western town. No. So we don't have anything. So in other words, basically, all the work of our ancestors to build communities and everything in America, right? Black people had their own townships. Even during slavery time, we had free black towns in America, in New York, Boston, you know, Louisiana, you know, in the Carolinas. We had black towns and everything that was self-sufficient. Black people had their own style of architecture. That wasn't Western civilization. The skills they had were their own. So when they say Western civilization, that's all trying to discredit or de-Africanize Liberia.
Let me see if you got this question here so we can get past it.
Are there organizations in Liberia that are working with BAIO? Yeah, we got the BAIO. That's all we freaking need. You know, all I need is people to join and participate. You know, how many organizations we're gonna freaking have? You know, everybody. We gotta organize. Somebody said something. A movement. Difference between a movement and progress. You know, we have to stop organizing and stop having movements and start moving towards progress. That's what we really need right now. You know, we're black people just organizing just to organize. You know, we organize. You know, we need to start having progress, and progress means let's put our stuff together and get something done, and have a blueprint to get something done. You know, the reason why they dropped the ball is they had over a century to organize this country. Probably Liberia probably always been inspiration. Look, the bottom line is this: Liberia. Should we play "The Wealth of Liberia" to remind her what we talk about, Bomani?
We still got to listen to what this guy is saying. I mean,
why? You know, what's the point? The guy's freaking lying.
The point is, it's a different perspective. That's
all. He's lying. I mean,
even if somebody's lying, we're still trying to hear what they're saying.
Okay, just a little bit more. I just can't take these guys lying. They're misrepresenting.
I mean,
I heard this guy speak many times before. The guy's a lie. You got to hear the people that debunk
the rest of us have not heard it, and we're trying to hear it. So, I mean, we're going to have to learn to play things and listen to it and analyze it, even though we're not agreeing with it. Because I'm still trying to get a feel for what he's saying, but you've stopped me twice already, so just let me just...
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
All right, there's a comment right there for you.
And when the unprepared air took over Doe's leader, that went to hell, you know? It's his fault. Who am I blaming on, you know? this guy right here, him and Doe and all these other people and whatnot, destroyed Liberia. And the Liberians I talk to now, the younger ones, they're learning this history and they're mad. They said these people stole our freaking future.
Yes, they
So
did.
yeah, it is, bro.
What he's talking about on this,
who had been transported to Europe or who were en route to slavery in Europe and the Americas. But the slave ships were intercepted on the high seas and their human cargo were brought to Liberia. This is the group that was originally called the Congo people. So by the end of the early decades of the 20th century, these recaptives, or Congo people, had been fully assimilated into settler society. And so that was the success of the assimilation policy, of the apprenticeship arrangement. Now, today, all people of settler backgrounds are even called Congo people. And that is a testimony to the success of that apprenticeship system and the policy of assimilation with the recaptives. But what about with the rest of with the indigenous population? With respect to the assimilation of children of indigenous societies, this policy was unrealistic and was largely unsuccessful for a variety of reasons, including the fact that surrounding the colony was a dominant culture. And that culture was strong enough to ensure its existence and continuity even amid these new values. Secondly, the environment and the relationship between settlers and indigenous communities was quite frequently rife with suspicion and often with violent interactions. And so there was not a view that behind this policy at all times was the goodwill and the good faith. And then, of course, in many cases, children from indigenous households were were abused by those who took them in their households. In some cases, they were not even allowed to enter the home through the front door. Some were given special cups and not allowed to use the utensils. Some would eat different food or the rice crust. So you had here a situation where, as a social policy directed to the assimilation of indigenous communities, you had a failed policy. The second policy, the settlements policy.
And so, Kali, so that was the first policy, and he said that was a failed policy.
Well, what he didn't understand was what he didn't say was the fact that when the system worked actually because the indigenous people that lived on the coast, the Bassas, the Grebos, the Vai people, they very assimilated because two of the richest families, educated families in Liberia were the Vai tribes, were the Massacoys and the Fambalas. They married into the Johnson family. And also the indigenous people, what he don't understand, what he didn't say was there was a lot of intermarriage between the indigenous people and the local people, There were people that were part Crebo and part Congo people and everything like that. He didn't say it. There was a lot of intermarriage between the two groups. And the two groups formed an educated elite. There was elite Gola, elite Vai people, elite Grebos, all these people basically congregated together and joined each other's churches and societies and everything. Liberians are very religious people. They all went to the same churches and everything like that, attended the same soccer team. They were on the same soccer teams, went to the same school. He didn't talk about the fact that the Ricks Institute in Virginia, Liberia, right, was made up of mostly indigenous people. It was a technical institute. He didn't talk about the Tuskegee Institute in in Kakata that was mostly indigenous people, right? He didn't talk about the College of West Africa, which is mostly indigenous, the Liberian College, which is mostly indigenous, right? Most of the students in Liberia were indigenous background. So what was he talking about? The indigenous people didn't need the ward system for the most part because they had their own families and everything, like he was saying. They had their own structure, but they still wanted to be part of this society called Liberia. What he's trying to do is he's trying to use the indigenous people to discredit Liberia when they were the ones that embraced the. He didn't tell you that a lot of indigenous people were in the military. They were in the army. They were in the Coast Guard. He makes out the indigenous people were left out of everything. It was an outright thing. All these people want to do, right, is take all these things, right? So, the Congo people were successful. And also ask a question, too. Why did the recaptures adopt the thing? Same thing as Sierra Leone. There were people that were captured in Sierra Leone, right, returned to Sierra Leone, right, from the interior, right? They didn't go back to their villages. They went to Freetown and said, look, I want to do this way of life. They saw a better way of life. When the biggest threat to the indigenous people was the freedom that their people wanted when they went to places like Monrovia, Buchanan, Harper, Liberia. They wanted to be part of this new society. They saw streets. They saw stuff. They said, and the people that were on top of the side, they look like each other. That's a difference. That's why you can't make that thing. So in other words, some people will wear African clothes, and one minute they're wearing Western clothes. It's not like that when you go South Africa. Blacks in South Africa were marginalized because of their race. You can put on a suit and tie, and you still were discriminated against because you're a different race. When two groups of people are the same race, it doesn't really matter. So what they're doing is basically this. There's people that want to go around and try to make it seem like black people are capable of oppressing other black people in a society. It's not true. Black people marry each other. One of the most beautiful women in Liberia, Hillary Johnson's daughter, married King Massaquoi in the 1920s. And I fictionalized in my book, right? I brought that love romance, to my novel, right? So therefore, the indigenous and miracle Liberian women married indigenous princes and people like that. It happened all the time. So intermarriage, he didn't mention that part. He left that part out. There was a lot of intermarriage, right? In fact, most of the men that came from America married native wives. They married native wives. Most of them that came over there married native wives. So he left that part about, And so therefore, like I said, they created this new culture called Liberian. Liberia is unique.
Yeah, brother, it seemed like you left a lot of stuff out, but that's that gave you a way to analyze all of the stuff you did left out. So that's perfect. We had 2 hours and 20-something minutes. And let me know how much more you want to go. I can also play a few more clips because this guy is very entertaining in his analysis of how he created.
His audience is geared toward that audience he's talking to is geared towards white people. Geared towards white people. White people want to believe that black people are not capable of being civilized and building a country and have harmony. Liberia, proof of which is this. Liberia had 133 years of peace. No internal wars in Liberia, except for one in the Crown country. And most of the conflict was between people that were crossed over the border that had no allegiance to Liberia or wherever. That's what the conflict was. But for the most part, Monrovia in the 1960s said it was the most peaceful country in the world. No crime. In Liberia's history, they had jails, but they had nothing. They had no prisoners for their jails. They had no prisoners for jails. You know what they used for their jails in Liberia? They would put the horses and the cows in there because they had no prisoners. It was a real orderly society. People got along with each other. It's just sometimes violence or whatnot. There was no violence in Liberia. No evidence of that whatsoever. It was not the people. And every last single tribe in Liberia, the Vai tribe and the Gola tribe, said, we recognize this republic and we're Liberians. And the best example of this is with this. The Mono tribe, where the Great Africa is from, right? In Nimba County, that's where the OAU was formed, right? The Mono tribe, right, sided with Liberia than the French. They say they raised the Liberian flag against the French and fought against the French. And because of them, Liberia was saved as a republic. Same to the Grebels. The Grebels said, look, we don't want to be part of France. We don't want to be part of it. So they don't talk about the indigenous people who were patriotic and loved their country. They don't talk about that part. They want to go back and make it seem like they were just oppressed people and everything. But the evidence is there. They signed treaties and everything. The kids were educated and everything. And you go to any of these towns and whatnot, they're very rarely integrated into society that they lived in. So he's doing his people a disservice. And the indigenous people, you know what the biggest holiday in Liberia is? Tubman's birthday in November. Tubman Day is the biggest day in Liberia. That's the biggest celebration. Flag Day, Independence, and Tubman's birthday. There's no Samuel Doe Day in Liberia. Tubman birthday, and also, to be honest with you, Samuel Doe loved Tubman. He loved Tubman. He loved Tubman. He was an admirer of Tubman. All Liberians loved Tubman. So all this nonsense about this, James Sawyer is just the fact that nobody listened to him when he was alive. Nobody took him seriously, He was just a grifter, Using his so-called limited education to mislead people and everything like that to gain political power. That's how it's done in Africa. But as more Africans become enlightened and educated, these people are a thing of the past.
Keep them sick. All right, Carla, I'm gonna play some more of it and see what this guy is saying.
This was a policy that was being pursued and promoted actually by the integrationist elements among the settler society, in settler society, spearheaded by Professor Blyden. What this policy was about, in fact, was that
Angel Soft toilet paper is
settlements of the settler community would be built deep into indigenous communities so that the people of the surrounding communities and those of the newly established settler communities would have life together, interact together, go to the same schools, interact in the same way, rather than having coastal enclaves. It was on this basis that in the late 1860s and the early 1870s, Arthington and Boerville, they may seem to be in town today or close to town, but in those days they were seen to be deep into indigenous communities. And the intention was to go even beyond Arthington and have even more settlements. But a number of things happened. One, after the American Civil War, emigration to Liberia decreased. And another thing that happened was that at this time, the British and the French colonialists were pressuring the communities in their aggressive imperialist ways. They were taking over more and more territory, and there were lots of fighting going on in the interior where colonial expansion was at its zenith. And so there was waves and waves of turbulence. And this policy had to be abandoned because of the aggressiveness of the British and French imperial authorities. The policy of educational expansion. The government had on its books policies for the expansion of education in the hope that as educational opportunities expanded, you would have a new Liberia emerging where values of civilization and skills would go hand in hand and would spread throughout the length and breadth of this country. But the words of the government were not matched by its actions. Unfortunately, the American Colonization Society hardly ever invested in education. And the succeeding government, Liberian government, hardly ever also. So it was the missionaries who, in fact, provided the education for our people.
That's a lie. That's a lie.
In fact, some settler missionaries themselves, like Lot Carey.
Okay, so
got
he had to put
involved in
that in there because
educational expansion.
he knew he was
But the
lying.
Baptists, the Methodists, the Episcopal,
But he'll
the
tell you
Lutherans,
that
and the
those
Roman
settlers,
Catholics
those missionaries
were at the
were
foundation of
actually black
Liberian
people from the West,
education,
you know.
and they've been there since
You
the
know,
founding of.
no, check this out. The black people from the West, right? The Ricks Institute, the Cuddington Institute, the College of West Africa, you know, and all these institutions, the Booker T. Washington Tuskegee Institute, the Marcus Garvey Institute. These were all African American missionaries that were in Liberia, but he don't tell you about that, you know. And the government did not have the funding to do it, especially like he said. And the government made every effort to build as many institutions as he wanted. He tried to make it seem like white people. Like, who are these missionaries, Dr. Amos? They were black people from America. You know, they were black people from America for the most part. Booker T. Washington built the Tuskegee Institute over Liberia, trained tens of thousands of Liberians. That's why Liberians have the skill of stone making and stuff like that, masonry. He didn't talk about the Masons who spread this the skills of Masonic and stone building in Liberia. He didn't talk about that. So he basically said, oh, they did. And also, like he said, the turbulent times. There wasn't enough people in Monrovia, right, to go up to the hinterland to do this stuff like that. Because, like I said, the American Colonization Society stopped funding after the Civil War. They stopped funding it. That's why in 1878, the Liberian Exodus Society was formed, right? Because there were no people coming over there. And the Liberian government reached out to Black America, newly freed slaves, and still during the Civil War, to say, come to Liberia. This is what my book was based on. This was an all-black effort, you know, the Exodus of 1878. You know, this is what we think. And then 40 years later, we had the Marcus Garvey movement. You know, so this idea. So the idea was like he just said, had more settlers and people came to Liberia, a lot of these problems wouldn't have happened, but it didn't happen. The United States government, right, well, America, during the early part of the 20th century, we had 2 world wars. When you have a world war, there was nobody going to Liberia because you had German U-boats. So after World War II, right, there were some people that came to Liberia, military people, black military that stayed and everything like that. And people don't tell that. Those people coming to Liberia up until like the early 1980s. What happened was this, right? After World War II, right, Black America got introduced to this thing called integration. And we sort of lost interest in moving to Africa, you know, because opportunities were opening up in America, you know, integration and stuff like this. So we sort of lost interest in this. But when you look at what the foundation, everything was laid down, right, for this to be successful. But a lot of things that happened on the international thing that was beyond Liberia's control, you know. No, there was school. You know, also, people don't understand something, right? When you build a church, right, the church in most black communities was doubled as a schoolhouse. It was a church on Sundays, but the schoolhouse was this church. Everybody went to school, you know, because the church and school was the same thing. You know, they would change. There would be a classroom one day, you know, during the week. On a week, the same building would be used as a church. And sometimes in those buildings, right, it would also be used as a court in many cases. So it wasn't just colleges and everything like that. They had these apprenticeship programs and stuff like that. The Ricks Institute, one of the best institutions ever created. Most of the people there were people from the Mandingo background, the Pele background, and Congo people and everything. All these boys went to school together. They became lifelong friends. You know, so like I said, these people want to judge Liberia by American standards. Liberia, for the most part, America never gave a damn about black people. Never tried. You know, look at what these other countries. How many schools did the South African government ever build? None. How many colleges ever built for the black South Africans? None. They took. Look what they did in Nigeria. The Royal Nigerian Company and whatnot went to Nigeria and made the Queen of England rich. All the gold sitting in the vaults of France and everything come from Africa. They still looting Africa to this day. But no one country they're not looting like that? Liberia. Liberia got plenty of gold and everything. You don't see foreigners in there taking gold. You don't see Chinese up there in the upcountry sucking out gold. Because all the mechanisms in the policies that are put in place. So these people hate the fact that this constitution was written to protect Liberia from the white man. That's why they're trying to discredit it right now. They want to discredit Liberia's history so they can basically rewrite the constitution, let whites, Chinese, everybody become citizens, and it won't be a country like we know it. That's what it's all about. So I don't know if we want to play anymore, but it's ridiculous.
Yes, and that's how we're gonna be able to analyze these people. Know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So if we don't do that, we don't hear their perspective, whether we agree or disagree with them. But do
you think I answered his conundrum he created?
Yes, and so let me go back to education.
Modernization society hardly ever invested in education. And the succeeding government, Liberian government, hardly.
So that's true, hardly invested in education.
That's a lie. J.J. Roberts took his own money, and built Liberia College, the College of Liberia. A lot of stuff that Liberia did not have the money for. It was a poor country. Liberia did not have a tax base like that, There's only a few thousand people contributing taxes.
Wow, man. Our college is the only type of school. Wow. I mean,
that's what I'm talking about. Unrealistic expectations. Where was the government supposed to get all this money from to build all these schools and stuff? Liberia was not a rich country. It was a poor country. The only real money Liberia got was when Firestone came in,
What the hell is this? What is this right here?
Oh, wealthy merchant discussing smoking while alive. Shut up.
Yeah, this person's want to talk about Prince Johnson. Yeah, that's Prince Johnson handled. You reap what you sow. That's the only thing I gotta say with it.
Mm-hmm.
Who's this person? ADOS invented country rock. Who's this person?
Who knows?
Your color, where you get all these trolls from, man?
ADOS, American Disciples of Satan. FBA, Fuckboys Association. An organization started by a lesbian, And
look at this one right here.
Lion's eye. There's nothing. Look, everything I said was absolutely true. She knows it.
So, man,
all these people do. You got people. The same people in Rwanda right now, right? Going Western media, dogging Paul Kagame. He's not doing this. He's not doing this. That's what the most dangerous thing you could do in a developing country is have unrealistic expectations. To get people to rise up and whatnot. They have to look at Central African Republic. Talk like this is what destroyed Central African Republic.
There you go, Carla. Somebody here say something. Somebody saying something nice to you.
Brother Chris, people here are not trying to learn anything here. Of course, probably, if people want to learn, I could teach them. But they don't want to learn. They already have their minds made up. You can't teach people like that, Just the same thing where a lot of our ancestors found out that you could bring education to people, but people don't want education and everything. They want to buck all the time, They want to buck against everything.
Well, he's saying they didn't really invest in education.
Yeah, well, I beg to differ. All the communities had schools and everything like that. I don't know about Liberians, right? I'd be like, how do they know so much about? We had libraries, They knew about. They had a lot of our authors and everything were popular in Liberia. A lot of Liberians knew, read things like Nancy Drew, the Hardy Boy, Nancy Drew series, mystery books, and stuff like that. So Liberia was very big on education, very big on education. I don't believe we can speak our country's history and not repeat. So it's not repeat. You basically destroyed what was built, with Samuel Doe. Liberians are still suffering right now because of what happened in 43 years ago. Has not recovered yet. You know, if you were talking about building a country, you would be there right now instead of here on right now. You'd be trying to book a flight tomorrow. Say, God forbid, what can I go to build my country? You know, can I build a road? Can I build a factory? Got to do something. You know, these people don't want to do anything but sit online, talk about what happened. 43 friggin' years. You know, just last week there was the anniversary of our 43th anniversary of Tober being murdered and assassinated and cannibalized. They cut the old man's heart out, you know, cut his heart out, disemboweled him, and they buried him in an unmarked grave. He didn't have a right for a proper burial. That's you. That's your people. That's your side of the story. And you're still mad about that because you thought that you get rid of these Congo people, whatever like that, you know, you were going to gain something. You lost. Oh, yeah, Congo people, we were number one in Africa when the Congo people were here. Yeah. All those connections that the Congo people had to America and Black America, Europe, and around the world. Liberia was powerful because it built diplomatic and cultural relationship with people all over. All that was destroyed in 1980. Liberia was a country in Africa that brokered the Lancaster Agreement in Zimbabwe. It brokered peace in Angola and the Congo. The True Whig Party was the most powerful political party on the African continent. Liberia was the head of the OAU. I blame America for 100 years before Doe, 10 years. Well, this would be a good time to play The Wealth of Liberia, Bomani.
You talk about the mines?
Huh?
You talk about showing the mines and things like that?
Well, the Wealth of Liberia. Liberia beaches and all that. She said 150 years. Well, we show her what 150 years was going on. She'll be like, that's not Liberia. That's not Liberia. That's not Liberia. Yeah, I showed some young Liberians The Wealth of Liberia. They were like, what? This was our country? Yeah. Before Samuel Doe took over. Before the primitive people took over power. I just sent it to you if you want to play it. Play a little bit of it. You live in America now. You're too scared to go back to Liberia. You know, everything you had in Liberia was built by our ancestors. You know, so don't give me that crap. What do you think? Samuel Doe came in 1980 and they suddenly had everything? No, what was built in Liberia was a work of our ancestors. This is 1974.
On December the 11th, 1822, a group of settlers ended their long voyage across the Atlantic Ocean, landing on a small island at the mouth of the Mesurado River, which they named Providence Island, secured with part of the mainland by treaty with 6 tribal kings. Crossing to the mainland, the settlers thrived and created a settlement that would become the city of Monrovia. Many such communities grew up, and the territory expanded until 25 years later, representatives from each of these communities came together at a constitutional convention, and on July the 26th, 1847, signed a Declaration of Independence, creating the free, sovereign, and independent nation of Liberia. That was 127 years ago, Today, businessmen and investors from all parts of the world have discovered the commercial and industrial potential that is the wealth of Liberia, with a government firmly committed to an open door policy and the principles and practice of free enterprise. Monrovia, capital city of Liberia. Its 150-year history reflected in a graceful cultural heritage, but a city as modern as today, the country having developed a fine balance between traditional African values and the modern way of life. Buildings steeped in the tradition of Liberia's rich history. Buildings reflecting the country's promise of a rich future, as with the imposing Executive Mansion, home of Liberia's President William R. Talbot. Buildings that reflect the civic dignity of the city, its commerce and industry. For the well-being of its people, the J.F. Kennedy Memorial Hospital, one of the finest in West Africa. Overlooking the city is the renowned Ducor Intercontinental Hotel, with a welcome for the visitor, one of the many fine hotels in Monrovia. Looking out across the Atlantic Ocean, the Ducor Intercontinental also looks out to one of the islands first sighted by those early settlers 150 years ago, Bushrod Island. Today, Bushrod Island contains one of Liberia's many industrial estates with a diversity of industry catering for much of the country's needs and providing exports, adding to Liberia's healthy balance, as with this soap factory. With an ever-expanding building and construction program, cement is essential, and this large cement works is situated conveniently close to Monrovia City. Serving the building industry too is a window and sun louver factory established by the Mesurado group of companies, an entirely Liberian-owned enterprise providing employment for many hundreds of Liberians. Another Liberian enterprise is a paint factory, effecting even further savings in foreign exchange by having its own can manufacturing plant. Supplying all types of animal and chicken feed, the Liberian Feed Mill Company also advised farmers on the most suitable methods of animal feeding. And a grain and wheat milling plant near Buchanan supplies a domestic demand. The Liberian Development Corporation stimulates industrial investment and the development of existing enterprises, assisting investors to identify investment opportunities, taking advantage of the country's resources and market requirements. Tobacco is one of Liberia's developing industries, and utilizing the country's own tobacco crop, a cigarette factory produces brands blended to local tastes. Liberia offers the investor security, a low level of private and corporate taxation, and a balance of trade that has been favorable for 20 years. To encourage young farmers in this fast-developing industry, a tobacco experimental farm has been set up, looking into the most suitable types of tobacco for Liberia's ideal soil and climatic conditions, and teaching farmers to take every advantage of this valuable addition to the country's industries. President William R. Talbot is intensely interested in the youth of his country, but young and old alike are completely involved in the future of their country through self-help programs instituted by the president, when he himself created rally projects to undertake the construction of schools and hospitals and roads linking outlying districts, financed with funds raised by the people themselves without seeking outside aid. Rally time, a complete involvement of the people in their country's future.
No World Bank or IMF
President Talbot
money.
himself also instituted a program of rehousing families formerly living in overcrowded areas. And on new housing estates such as Gardinersville and another named after the assassinated leader of the Guinea-Bissau liberation movement, Amilcar Cabral, families can be raised in pleasant, healthy surroundings, preparing for their inheritance, which is the wealth of Liberia.
Now, does that look like the indigenous people are being oppressed? No. New housing, factory work, and stuff like this, you know. So whatever the Liberians were doing, by the 1970s, they're well equipped for industrialization. So people put this nonsense down. That's why I said, man, we fight fire with fire. We fight people with the truth. All people do is lie, lie, lie.
Yes, brother, and that was during Tolbert era. So when she said about Doe 10 years, wow, it's unbelievable. But anyway, our family now, but build stronger in the future. So here we go. A lot of comments by your friend Gem Jewel. She keyboard warrior tonight, my youth.
Correct. Black words outside. All of them have a right to Africa, despite where they. That's what I'm saying. I have a right to talk about any country in Africa I so please. Until you live in Liberia. How about that? Why don't you live in Liberia? You live in America. These same people will get on there and tell you about what's going on in America. Kyle, you don't know nothing, man. Biden's the best president we ever had and whatnot. Tell me about America, Africans that come to America. You got Afro dumbass talking about black people in America when not living here, talk about our issues, all in our business. When Africans can't stay out of Black America's business and politics and everything, but when it comes to Africa, you can't say nothing about it. Get the hell out of here. There's a reason why I go to Liberia with a diplomatic visa, not a regular visa.
There you go, brother. You want me to play it again? Play some more?
Play a little more.
Realizing the importance of the younger generation in the future of his country, President Talbot refers to the youth of Liberia as his precious jewels. And here at the University of Liberia, these young people are able to acquire the higher learning required of them if they are to take
Jewel got
the
some
fullest advantage
education
of the
right there right now too.
What you say?
Had Jewel got some education, she'd be right there too. She ain't get no education, So she's in America talking a bunch of nonsense, 2:00 in the morning, talking a bunch of foolishness online.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Bomani.
I think she's obsessed with you, brother. She won that Mandingo warrior.
Down for them by today's leaders. With the importance of agriculture, the University of Liberia has established a College of Agriculture and Forestry, which, in addition to its academic importance, also serves as a major agricultural research center. The Forest Products Research Laboratory has a well-established nursery growing more than 20 different tree species to determine their suitability for large-scale commercial production. The Agricultural Extension Training Center of the college offers training from simple farming methods and management to crop physiology, and students are taught the importance of meteorology in good crop management. Animal husbandry is also of major importance, many of the country's cattle being supplied to a large meat packing plant to meet the increasing demand for frozen meat products. Oil palms grow profusely in Liberia, providing a cash crop income for smallholders and cooperatives, and students receive the benefit of research into this valuable crop. Palm kernels are crushed at modern oil mills, like this operated by the Liberian Produce Marketing Corporation, located near the port of Monrovia, where processed oil is stored to facilitate easy onboard loading. The Liberian Produce Marketing Corporation, a joint venture of the Liberian government with the East Asiatic Company of Denmark, buys much of Liberia's palm oil, coffee, and cocoa, maintaining a huge storage complex within the free port of Monrovia for shipment to all parts of the world. And in addition to direct buying and overseas sales, has vast areas of its own under cultivation, supplied by the corporation's own nurseries. President Tolbert and his administration, aware of the great economic potential of the country's agriculture, has classified agriculture as the #1 priority in the National Development Program, which is committed to making the country self-sufficient in rice, the staple food of the population. Under this program, and with the ideal climate of northern Liberia, thousands of acres have been put under cultivation, producing upland and swamp rice for sale to the domestic market. Irrigation schemes have been constructed under expert guidance, and high-grade rice will soon be available to meet the demands of the country at reasonable cost. The Foya Agricultural Development Project, testimony to a far-sighted administration. Further to the south are the famous rubber plantations of Liberia. Cultivated by smallholders and large estate owners alike, Liberia is one of the world's most important suppliers of natural rubber. From the plantation, rubber is processed into either latex or crepe form and transported for shipment from the ports of Monrovia, Greenville, or Harper. Rubber, the wealth of Liberia.
A lot of people don't know this, but if you have the YouTube app,
Yet another source of Liberia's wealth. Much of Liberia is covered with high forest containing more than 200 varieties of trees, offering investment possibilities in the wealth of these vast reserves of high-quality timber. From concessions in the interior, logs are transported for shipment to all parts of the world from the ports of Buchanan or Monrovia. The world-renowned free port of Monrovia, known to ships carrying the flags of many nations, either coming to pick up valuable produce or to offload cargoes in the free port area. The free port of Monrovia, the only duty-free port in the whole of West Africa, where cargoes can be transshipped or held in storage in the free port area, attracting no customs tariffs whatsoever, thereby cutting costs to the shippers of goods in transit. An area where frustrated consignments, while awaiting onward sale, are held pending transshipment to other destinations, all completely duty-free. The free port of Monrovia, gateway to West Africa. Also based on the port of Monrovia is one of the largest fishing fleets in West Africa, operated by the Mesurado Group and an important part of the country's economy. Reaching the fishing grounds, the nets are put out for the haul. and the fleet settles down for the trawl, each trawl taking about 4 hours. Day and night, every 4 hours, the catch is hauled in. Wealth from the land, wealth from the sea. And at Mesurado's own processing plant, each catch is cleaned and sorted within minutes of landing to be packed and frozen. Some of the finest shrimp in the world are off the Liberian coast, and every catch is carefully controlled and analyzed to meet stringent international standards for export to many parts of the world. Japan, a critical consumer, is one of Liberia's biggest customers. Tourists discover that there's more to see in Liberia, with more than 300 miles of some of the finest beaches in the world, fishing second to none, and hotels and restaurants offering a gourmet's delight with an international cuisine. Liberia's natural coastline caters for the children too. Every beach having a quiet, peaceful lagoon right behind the more boisterous sea, where children can swim and play in perfect safety. And where Dad can put his feet up without a care in the world. Beaches with romantic names like Caesars, Cooper's, Coles Beach, Sugar Beach offer weekend barbecues and beach chalets for a longer stay. And there's always plenty of local interest. Close by Roberts International Airport is Robertsfield Hotel on the banks of the Farmington River, and ideal for a stopover on arrival or before leaving. Just a short drive from Monrovia is the picturesque town of Robertsport, like Robertsfield, named after Liberia's first president. Robertsport, with a charm and culture all its own, with placid Lake Piso on one side and the Atlantic Ocean on the other, with a luxurious hotel overlooking the ocean and a favorite spot for out-of-towners. Safe for the children, ideal for water skiers or just lazing in the sun, more than 300 miles of palm-lined golden sands make this a tourist paradise. Visitors are entertained throughout the country by traditional dance troupes, the national dance troupe of Liberia having performed throughout the world.
Where we get Jewel up there to do some dancing while we go there, you know. Do it up, Jewel. Maybe we get Jewel up there doing some dancing, man. Bring the Vibe people out there. That's the Vibe tribe in Robertsport, you know. You know, we get out there, do some dancing and entertainment. Do something, contribute to your country, girl. You know.
Look at this. This is our recommendation.
Yeah, Bomani, another video to throw back. No, we don't want to see it. No, we don't want to see it. We don't want to see what you hate. You hate mongers got to think, you know. This right here was before the coup, 1974. This was Liberia. This was all the work of our ancestors. They said, oh, they didn't do nothing. Tell me why Liberia looks like, in 1974, you remember how the Philippines looked and all these places looked? Can you show me any country in the world at that time that looked like this, Bomani?
No country.
Jamaica didn't look like this. Haiti didn't look like this. Parts of the United States didn't look like this. You know?
No. Some countries are close, but So yes, brother. So nothing else. I can play a few more. It's almost finished.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, you could a little more. I know you're ready to get. I'm ready to get to bed too.
What visitor can resist the art of the Liberian carver? The traditional brass beater offers exquisite workmanship. But perhaps Liberia is best known for the delicate work of the ivory carver, famed and admired the world over. And for those traveling to other parts of West Africa, Air Liberia operates frequent and convenient scheduled and charter services. From Spriggs Bay Airport, located within Monrovia City, Air Liberia flies the Pepperbird route, named after the tiny bird found only in Liberia, to any of the country's many airfields. Convenient for the businessman in a hurry or the visitor wishing to see more of this fascinating country, like the awe-inspiring Nimba Mountain. Nimba Mountain, one of the largest iron ore deposits in the world, providing one of the greatest sources of revenue in Liberia's economy. Iron ore, together with rubber, represents some 85% of Liberia's exports. Drilled in shelf formation, iron ore is separated from waste material for processing. Waste material being returned for reclamation and transported in giant bulk carriers, each carrying a load of 110 tons. After crushing, the ore is transported to the railhead by overhead conveyor systems or railing south to the processing plants. At Buchanan, refining is carried out at one of the largest refining plants in Africa, where a high-grade ore is produced ready for shipment. This huge complex provides employment for many hundreds of Liberians, and similar to many others throughout the country, maintains a trade center for the training of artisans and technicians. Although Nimba is the largest, there are many iron ore deposits in Liberia, and ore from many upcountry mines is railed to the ports of Monrovia and Buchanan to be stockpiled ready for shipment. Giant mechanical grabs load the refined ore onto conveyor systems for loading into the special ore carriers that can be seen in Liberia's ports every day of the year. Iron ore, the wealth of Liberia. The wealth of Liberia. A complete involvement of the people in the future of their country. A future in the capable hands of President William R. Talbot and his administration. President Talbot has high regard for his country's important international position, fully supporting the aims and principles of the Organization of African Unity. Here he's joined by the Prime Minister of Guinea, en route to the OAU conference in Mogadishu. President Talbot is the 19th President of the Republic, Liberia being one of the few countries where governments have constitutionally succeeded one another for more than a century.
Yeah. Liberia's story is not over yet, you know.
All right, perfect, Sammy. I'm sure Jim Jewel got a lot to say.
Yeah, nothing to say. They can't show me any success or any development or anything like that, you know. The whole time when Tober was doing all this, that was his biggest critic.
Wow.
Amos was big. Oh man, the Congo people. Not looking at the people that were freaking benefiting from this. The indigenous people got the jobs and everything. They had money in the house. They had houses and everything. You know. Oh, you know what you do? Talk to the people from Nimba. We gotta have Great African on the show.
Like a straight hater.
Huh? Yeah, go talk to him. They said Nimba. They said, man, we had our own way of life. We had. Because a lot of mines were in Lamco, in Nimba, Yepika. They said, man, there was paradise up in Nimba Mountains, you know? He said, man, we didn't have to go to Monrovia. Yeah, they had it so good up there, you know? So these people up there, she's probably a crime person. She should have stayed in Grand Jita and did something with that. I ain't gonna diss the whole place, but they would do something with that freaking swamp, you know? But they want power, you know. Most illiterate tribe, the crime people, you know, took over power. Look what happened. The crew people and the crime people want to destroy Liberia. And this guy Amos Sawyer was born in Sierra Leone. He wasn't even a Liberian. A lot of crew people were aligned with the British. They were basically from day one Liberia was they've been working with the British to try to friggin' sabotage Liberia. You know? They want power. The Africans love coups one night. You know, you have like two coups in Burkina Faso.
Yeah, the idiot is you know, you have the village idiots who want to take over the country.
This is another good video right here. The guy said the east coast of Africa. You know, this one came out at night. This one started all stuff against Liberia. Janine Cooper, she's in this video. She doesn't even know it. I said, yeah, there's a clip of you in the video. You know? And she's in one clip. She was a cutie. She was a hottie back then. Janine Cooper. She went to the University of Michigan with Magic Johnson, you know? And she said, yeah, people start telling us stuff about our country. I heard that's what y'all are oppressing Native Africans. She said, that's not the country I come from. All this misinformation. Believe there's a truth.
Ready, roll.
Long before Alex Haley and Roots to found the first republic on that continent, Liberia, a nation on the east coast of Africa whose roots are in the United States. Most of the news out of Africa, independent Africa, and Southern Africa has been a catalog of brutality, tribal war, and insane slaughter. Well, Liberia is free of those things, but it suffers from a different, less newsworthy kind of African sickness. The sadness and seediness, petty corruption, and grand larceny, black and white mischief. You'll find it all in Liberia.
Liberia calls itself a republic. In fact, it is an oligarchy, ruled by a few, but a few that belong to 300 families descended from the original settlers. Families who are at the top and see to it that they stay at the top.
150 years ago, American philanthropists and freed slaves had the idea of a state in Africa. It was in no sense a return to a promised land, but an escape from a land that held no promise.
The Liberian Declaration of Independence is modeled on the American one, except for some key language. It states that Liberians were originally Americans who were forced by conditions to seek asylum abroad from their deep degradation. And so they landed on this beach as colonists, American colonists, who imposed themselves on what they called the uncivilized natives. Africa was as alien to them as it was to the first white settlers elsewhere. And just as in the white settlements,
What you're saying?
You see how the language they use? They basically Americanized. If the people that went to Liberia weren't Americans. They weren't Americans. They had no citizens in America. How could they be Americans? You know, they'll tell you, go back to Africa. You ain't American. You ain't American. You know, you ain't American. So suddenly, when they go to Liberia, suddenly they're Americans now. You know, that's how the white man. The white man, you let the white man tell our history. And this right here is what started all this stuff about Liberia. This broadcast, this was 60 Minutes. You know, people started writing books. The American Liberians and all this kind of stuff like that. There was no people called American Liberians. They made that shit up. You know?
All right, perfect. There you go, man. Break it down.
everything that was done in the name of Christian civilization. They brought with them their Western religion and proceeded to convert the natives to it. The result has been a unique Christianity with echoes of an Africa as old as life.
Black church. You go to black churches, that's how we praise in black churches.
But to those pilgrim fathers, America was the old country. They named places Maryland and New Georgia and Virginia. And they built houses that have that same southern look, a cross between the old slave quarters and the old plantation house. The absence of a colonial legacy has its disadvantages. No tradition of civil service, terrible communications, primitive education and medical care. In Liberia, they started from scratch with little outside help. Not even the conscience money its neighbors received from former colonial masters. All it got from America was a memory. The grand old flag with 49 fewer stars. The currency is the US dollar. The mailboxes are American. The cop on the beat wears a New York City Police Department uniform. The capital is Monrovia, named after US President James Monroe. Liberia is stable without the paratroop enforcers you find in so much of black and white Africa. This is the Liberia most familiar to Americans, the Liberia of President William Tubman. He ran things as an elected dictator for 27 years. It had the look of 19th century America in blackface. Tubman insisted on things like silk hats and frock coats. Everyone, diplomats included, sweated it out in the West African heat. But the clothes clearly defined the classes. The only thing the colonialists had in common with the natives was the color of their skin. It was ruled by elite, the top 300 families who could trace their lineage back to the Exodus. Well, Tubman's gone. He died 8 years ago and was replaced by this man, William Tolbert. The president still sets the rules for dress. The leisure suit has replaced the frock coat. There have been other changes, but mainly in look and style. It is still ruled by elite, by the top people who regard the nation as a private inheritance. The president disputes this, says Liberia is a democracy. It does have an American-style constitution, a Senate and a House of Representatives, and free elections. But there's only one party, and that's been the case for all of this century. Liberians resent things like the report that Ambassador Andrew Young described them as a bunch of Uncle Toms. And they're angry with President Carter, who passed through the country on his trip to Africa. No way to be treated by the mother country.
You see, the president passed through here and went to Nigeria and stayed there for days and came here for a few hours. That's your daughter? You pass by your daughter and go to somebody else's place and stay 2-3 days, and you don't even lay your head on one pillow in her house. Tell her. We don't like it, and she must change her ways. Thank you.
The top families, known as honorables, number about 40,000 out of Liberia's 1.7 million people. They have names like Carter and Phillips and Dennis. This is a wedding party that the Coopers are giving for the Campbells. There are impossibly complicated cross-connections through intermarriage in these family trees. It ensures that power and money remains in the same hands generation after generation. And the American connection is continually being reinforced. Most young Americo-Liberians are educated in the United States, and they often bring back American brides. That's what one of the Bernard brothers.
That was Janine Cooper. What the white hat on, that was Janine Cooper. She doesn't know she was in this video.
That's what's up. So kind of the white man breaking it down, saying your iconic Liberian history made up black elites.
So let me ask you this question, right? You go to Nigeria, right? Who controls the oil and gets the oil contracts in Nigeria? You know, there's Nigerian elites in every country. The Dos Santos of Angola, they were the elite, right? You know, connected people. Usually people from the founding of a country are always going to be the elite. That's always been like that. That's like every country. In America, you had the Rockefellers, the Carnegies, you know, the Kennedys, and all these other people, you know. So what makes you think that Liberia is going to be any different? There's going to be people that's on top, and there's people think. But what he didn't say is, what about the powerful, the wealthy Massaquoi family, you know, the Fambala family, you know, all these people that had connections in the iron ore industry and stuff like that, you know. So he basically one side, he go over there, okay, this guy, elite. He doesn't know that when you look at this people, he doesn't know who's a Fambala, who's a Massaquoi, who's a Kula, or whoever like that, you know, or a family. He doesn't know. All he sees is black. He assumes that because they're dressed at a party, that these are all so-called American Liberians. Do all those people look American Liberian? No, some of them look indigenous, you know. Yeah, I've been on the ground, bro. I've been on the ground in Liberia. You know, I'm well established in Liberian culture, society. I'm well known and well established and well studied. And I've been in Liberia. I just got back. Being on the ground is just different and whatnot, you know. And when you talk to Liberians and whatnot, they wish these days would come back. That's what they say. They wish these days would come back. They look at these videos and like, damn, man, our country was the shit.
Did. They've both just returned from college at North Carolina and Western Michigan to take up the family fortune amassed by their late father, the former director of police.
So there's the transportation company, the car rental, the bus service, the heavy trucking of gas.
Right.
There's this extraordinary beachfront property that's going to become a holiday hotel.
Exactly. Apartments, farms, other real estate here and there.
This is not, I got to tell you, an image of Africa and Africans that most Americans had.
We do have a mixture of the indigenous African and then what some would call the civilized African. We are sort of a blend of, both.
One of the reasons for the blend is that marital fidelity in Liberia is almost unheard of. President Tolbert himself has only one wife, but he has children by many women and is said to be as virile at 65 as he was in his 20s. He's a Baptist minister and former head of the World Baptist Alliance, but he feels no moral or ethical conflict.
You know, one of the fascinating things about life in this country, particularly for an outsider, are the family relationships. I mean, how it works. So that a man may have a wife and a couple of mistresses and have children that are born out of wedlock that are nevertheless brought into the family. And in your own youth, I gather, sir, that you fathered children outside your immediate family. How does it work?
It works well. Liberian life is peculiar life. In fact, we are a close-knit people. If you touch one, you touch more or less all. Those who are not related by blood somehow or another, they are close. We have what we call the extended family life.
The Bernard boys had the same father, but different mothers. One, the father's wife, the other, their father's friend.
It isn't a question of many wives.
No. It's the
one
children.
wife.
We don't. It's not a matter of polygamy. It's there's only one wife. My father's only had one wife at a time, and it's not a matter of just.
He had one wife, but how many children did he have by women other than that one wife?
Oh, about 13.
Really?
Yeah.
Liberia has great wealth and has a reputation for being easy pickings for the international conglomerates, providing they deal with the right families. Firestone Tire owns most of the rubber, along with eminent Liberians. The field hands earn $7.50 a week. And there's iron. A foreign consortium extracts the ore, and the government extracts half their profits. And for special people, special shares were created. So a few benefit grandly from this joint venture. And Liberia has the world's largest shipping fleet registered under its flag, a flag of convenience. The convenience being tax breaks and casual scrutiny of crews and ships. And there's talk of oil, and there's uranium and gold and diamonds, and vast resources of timberlands that are just beginning to be exploited. But the fact is, most of the wealth that all of those natural blessings Liberia has stays up there among the 40,000 people at the top of the heap. And no one is more top than William Tolbert, this great-great-grandchild of slavery who can trace his roots back to South Carolina, has farms and rubber plantations, and family connections with businesses all over the country. He is president of a republic, but he lives like a feudal prince, or more correctly, an enlightened African chief. All up the West African coast, it is called dash, the small gift to a servant who has performed well. Crisp new U.S. currency to his workers and their families, and while the cameras are there, to just about anyone who asks. President Tolbert deplores the very idea that anyone might believe that Liberia is controlled by family compacts. We'll take a look at the country's biggest private business. The Meserato Corporation is involved in many things. Its biggest enterprise is fishing, catching and freezing shrimp and lobster for the export market. It also has a monopoly on commercial fishing for the domestic market. Vice President in charge of Meserato Fishing, Richard Tolbert, Harvard, Columbia Law School, and the president's nephew.
If you need to get any more people on a temporary basis, do.
Over at Meserato's headquarters, you'll find more Tolberts. Stefanette, vice president in charge of everything. Sietta Tolbert, working her way up through the finance department. And Lori Tolbert, in charge of retail sales.
It's rare to find a firm anywhere that's such a family firm as this one.
If there's any crisis, the family automatically binds together. So that if there are any kind of problems, it's just a matter of picking up the phone and saying, I need you, and everybody comes. And that's the way we've been brought up.
Business is business, politics is politics, and family is family. President Tolbert says he'll not run again when his term is up in 5 years.
We don't have $750,000 to give you either.
Among the most likely candidates are Shad Tubman, son of the former president and son-in-law of Mr. Tolbert. But the man most people in Monrovia say is the hottest candidate is this man, A. Benedict Tolbert, trained at Oberlin University, a gentleman farmer, a dynamo of a politician, and the son of the president.
I am the chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee of the House of Representatives. I'm also the co-chairman on the Committee on Education. I'm also a member of the Committee on Information and Cultural Affairs. Out of government, I am president of the Liberian Federation of Trade Unions, also a minister of the gospel, an evangelist, a spiritualist.
That's a pretty full day you've described.
That's right. Personally, I am a child of the universe, and I belong to the school of ascended masters teaching called the Great White Brotherhood. There are several hierarchies in the universal cosmological world. And so you have a master in charge of wealth, who is called the Master Fortuna. You have a master in charge of governments and nations of the world called El Moya. You have a master in charge of freedom of the universe called Saint Germain. You have a master for justice called Portia. You have a master for wisdom called the goddess of Mercury. But this does not bring about blasphemy, nor does it make about several gods. It doesn't bring about a pantheon of gods. And if it were not so, I would not have told you.
Tell me, in purely practical terms, and one hears this rumored about in the political circles here, that you're a pretty good candidate to be the next president of Liberia.
I believe I am because of the way I live. You see, God doesn't make many leaders. He makes few leaders. If he made many leaders, then he wouldn't have followers.
No, but in a purely personal way, does this cause some family quarrels or tensions?
Not at all. I am not ambitious to become president. I only regard myself as a presidential timber because I know I'm capable of governing not only Liberia, but the whole of Africa. And if the great divine master of human events decides through the minds of the people to use me as a presidential candidate, not only will I rule Liberia, but I shall endeavor to rule the whole of Africa by uniting the continent.
Into one?
This is my goal, my objective, and my aim in my lifetime to see Africa united.
With A.B. Tolbert as president.
Maybe.
A chip from the block. And I gather you were a chip off your old man's block.
Liberians at an official level deny that the country is ruled by nepotism. But at the same time, they point to a number of things.
That in white America, it is not unknown for certain powerful families to be in politics and business at the same time, or for the same old names to keep getting all the good jobs, or for networks of relatives and friends to look after their own, or for men in public life to be unfaithful to their wives. It's just that in the United States, hypocritically, we try to cover it up. That, rather refreshingly, is not one of the American qualities those African pilgrim fathers brought with them when they came to the dark continent.
Well, we control the truth at the end. America does the same thing. People in politics, you got families that run America and whatnot, but when it comes to Africa, they want to just get the hell out of here with that, Liberia just needed a decade to even things out, So, like I said, it had everything going for it.
Yes, bro, I call it. It is getting late.
Yeah, it's late.
Appreciate the breakdown and everything. That's a great one for the Liberia. A lot of history, a lot of analysis, a lot of breakdown, some good video clips. Yes, man, that was impressive, and then you see all these Tolbert, they had a great vision of being up there in politics and doing well, making some serious move in the country. And Samuel Doe ruined that. So,
yeah.
Because what happened to his family after that? I guess all of his family.
It's like this. What has to happen in Africa, right? You need a middle class. You're always going to have wealthy people and everything like that. You need a middle class. The middle class protects the country. The middle class where everyone has a house, a modern way of living, the basics, the essentials, and everything. That's a challenge for any African country. Any African country, like in Nigeria, where you got people that are super rich, and then you got so many people. Nigeria has the highest concentration of poverty in the world.
Unfortunately,
that's a ticking time bomb. So you need to build a middle class. Liberia never got to that chance. Never got that point. The last had that coup never happened. Imagine what 40 years would look like right now.
Yeah, serious, man. Yeah, because that thing set you back, man. Decades.
People like Samuel Doe, look, he's a hero to some of the indigenous people.
That's sick, right? Isn't that sick?
Yeah, it's sick.
They destroyed a great establishment.
Right. But the thing is, though, I was looking at Pablo Escobar. You know, at his funeral, people were touching the casket and everything like that. This guy killed tens of thousands of people in this country, in Colombia, in Medellin. But at his funeral, everybody was there praying over his coffin, crying and weeping and everything. So people are. That's his human nature. So I expect people like look at Samuel Doe as a hero, you know?
Well, he got what he deserved, man. Prince Johnson gave him that.
Yeah, he got what he deserved, you know.
Where you put your soul.
You know? And people like say, oh, Prince Johnson need to be tried for war crimes. They just want to embed Samuel Doe. That's all it is. They cherry pick who they want. They hate Prince Johnson because he captured Samuel Doe, but they forget about massacring people, cannibalizing them, and every kind of stuff like that, torturing people and raping and all stuff like that. That's all like that. That they say, oh, the 80s was a great time. They had like 7 years in the 80s before the country collapsed. By 1987, the country had collapsed.
Yeah.
Descended into anarchy.
Yeah, I mean, he done executed all the people who running the country,
and drove out all the educated people, you know?
I mean, how the hell you just kill all the smart people running the country?
And drive them out, you know?
In front of everybody on the beach.
Yeah. The savages.
And then, I mean, like
savages.
Sold, man. They captured his ass later on.
Yeah, they told you he cried like a little baby. Please don't kill me. You see that crying like a little baby.
There you go, man. That's what you get. Yeah, what a unfortunate. If there was a movie to be made, be on your book, you know what I mean? You have to call it Charles Taylor. How that man survived this entire time is unbelievable.
Yeah. Liberia told me I was shocked when I went there. They said, man, Charles Taylor, we had order, we had stuff, we had schools, we had jobs. I don't know what Charles Taylor was doing, man, because I haven't really studied his history. I got to do that. You know, but people say that they liked it when he was in power. We had order in this country.
I'm sure he probably did some wonderful things. I mean, ain't none of them innocent, man. And
nobody innocent, man. When it comes to Africa,
you're caught into a world where everybody think that they're right. I mean, you feel like you should be running the country. You should be overthrowing me, and I feel you should be, And it's unfortunate, man. I mean,
that's all over the continent.
It's a history for us to build on.
Check it out. You got people in Eastern Congo, right? Tutsi and Hutu rebels. They're over there saying, we're going to bum rush Rwanda. And what are you going to do? Destroy what Paul Kagami's building, you know?
That's it. That's all they want to do. That's all they want to do is destroy. They don't have any solution to building.
No solution, you know?
And that's the problem. But yeah, the movie, the classic movie will be Charles Taylor, because this man has survived from the beginning, all the way to,
Yeah, I met his son. I was with his son, man. You go in the links, I got pictures of me and his son. His son looked just like him.
And so many people didn't make that time, back to back, So
yeah, I met his son, the youngest son, man. I was like, squeezing his head, man. He's a little cute little guy. He's like 26, 27. He looked just like Charles Taylor. He came over to meet me one night. He said, "Yeah." My boy Paul was like, "Yeah, he wanted to meet you." And I was like, "Oh, what's up, man? My little man."
That's what's up, man. That's cool. Charles Taylor. The man who survived.
Because where I was staying at was right next to his mother's house, the vice president. Her compound was right next to where I was staying at, So he came over and he wanted to meet me.
Oh my God, look at this. I was just talking about Samuel Doe just basically replaced all of the most educated people with village idiots to run the country, and the country collapsed within 3 years?
Yeah, it collapsed about 1983. It stood a little while. America ejected. America gave Samuel Doe $500 million. It never gave Tolbert a dime, but it gave Samuel Doe $500 million. To kick the Russians, Chinese, Libyans, and the Cubans out. So America has blood on its hands with Liberia.
She's literally going to defend a savage like Samuel Doe.
Of course. And those chiefs talk about were the crew chiefs, right, who were executed because they raised the British flag on crew turrets and grand crew, you know, and challenged the government, and they got executed, you know.
Let me guess. Tolbert government executed them.
No, it was the first Barclay, you know, and Howard, you know, President Howard and Barclay. You know, they didn't play with those people, you know. They raised the British. The British tried to take over the territory, and they hoisted the Union Jack flag, you know, on Liberian soil.
What a day! What a day! What a day! Yes, my brother. What a situation, brother. And it is late at night, man. Color Genesis always dropping it live, family. Until next time. Yes.
Remember, Africa for the Africans.
Perfect, man. We're gonna hit them with some closeout music. You know what I mean? Sons of Africa, one of them nice joints, and you can jam to it. But yeah, Kyle, it's been good, man. So out here back to work non-stop. So get a few hours rest and get back to work.
Same here.
Moves, and you know what I mean? We're doing a good job keeping it from all these fake people on YouTube and staying focused on what we're building. Great conversation about Liberia. Hopefully people see that we can build a stronger future.
Yep. All right, brother Bomani. You take care, brother. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Yes, brother. You take care, man. Connect back with you, man. We'll keep it strong.
Yep.
I mean,
another knockout show.
It was the year 1957. The African Republic of Ghana regained her independence from colonial forces under the careful leadership of the Honorable Dr. Bomani Nkrumah. Blessed by His Imperial Majesty, Haile Selassie, Kadamawi, Kadamawi, Kadamawi. Hey, hey.
Return to the roots. Come get your truths and your blessing, son. Go forward. A message and a lesson. Return to the roots. Come get your truths and your blessing. United we stand, and we standing strong. From the examples of Ghana. Got to be working together. Black star, black generation. Ice, gold and green. Life, color, life, liberation. Black and pink cross. Symbols from creation. It was a sun, go forward. A message and a lesson. Return to the roots. Come get your truth and your blessing, son. Go forward. A message and a lesson. Return to the roots. Come get your truth and your blessing. Return to your roots and get your blessing. Return to your roots and get your blessing. Return to the roots and get your blessing. Return to your roots and get your blessing. The call and response. Rhythms of djembe and kete. Sounding far and distance. Regenerating vibration. From corner to curb. The million voices are heard. It was a sun, hope for bird. A message and a lesson. Return to the roots. Come get your truths and your blessing. Sun, hope for bird. A message and a lesson. Return to the roots. Come get your truths and your blessing. Return to your roots and get your blessing. Return to your roots and get your blessing. Return to the roots and get your blessing.